Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker with Maverick Multimedia and Maverick News. This is ongoing live coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022, cruising to the Capitol. And I'm here with my lovely and talented co-host,
Brendan Kennedy, the host of the Flow of Discourse podcast. It's great to be here with you, Rick. How are you today?
Well, I'm okay, but once again, worried, concerned, disturbed, optimistic, fearful. I have a mixed bag of emotions tonight, and that's because there is so much going on. In spite of the Prime Minister deciding to invoke the Emergencies Act, which is the modern equivalent of the War Measures Act, to deal with the protest in Ottawa, the protest continues. The truckers are undeterred. They are still there in significant numbers. The crowd seems to actually be growing from my estimation today. We'll find out more about that from Carla Olson, who is on the ground in Ottawa tonight, gathering video. She'll be joining us live very shortly. And I'm very concerned about what I'm hearing with regard to the tactics that police are likely to use to disperse the protesters tonight. And I will follow up what we are going to show people with an appeal to police from myself. And you might want to join in on that as well. And also tonight joining us live will be Brian Everaert, PPC candidate in the last federal election and a political analyst. He always has great insight, and his input tonight will be invaluable. Where are you at, Brendan? What do you have for us?
Well, it's been a roller coaster. There is so much to be hopeful and concerned about, especially with the things that we see ramping up in Ottawa. It does appear that we either have something going on here, or it could be that they're bluffing, but I'm going to say that they have a ace up their sleeve and that they're going to try something in the next little while. Like you said, that you're concerned about some of the tactics they may be going to use. So it's tripping out. Where's it going to go? Every prediction I've made so far has been absolutely wrong. But I think there's enough evidence here. We've seen enough of their cards at this point to know what's going to happen, especially when we've observed everything that happened in Windsor, Ontario. We're starting to observe those things happening in Ottawa right now.
Yeah. Yes. It's pretty clear that the police are moving in with, well, they were handing out warning letters today, right? In fact, I'm going to see if I can find you footage of that, because we do have that footage.
I have the letter pulled up here too. I'm not sure if you just want to go over
Sure,
the letter.
we can do that. You want to throw the letter up?
Yeah. One sec.
So the police have moved into the area today, and they are handing out letters to the truckers. And they're trying to put this letter into the truckers' hands, and it's a warning saying that they have to leave the area. And by doing that, it's clear that they're getting ready to escalate. It's sort of like, here's your last warning. This is, if you don't leave now. So here's the letter, and here's what it says. You want to read it there, Brendan?
Yeah, I'll read it out. Yeah, just before I go on. Yeah, this is exactly what happened in Windsor before they cleared everybody out at the Ambassador Bridge border to Detroit. Yeah. So it says, you must leave the area now. Anyone blocking streets or assisting others in the blocking of streets are committing a criminal offense, and you may be arrested. You must immediately cease further unlawful activity, or you will face charges. If you are arrested, you may be released on bail depending on factors contained by Part 16 of the Criminal Code. Mm-hmm. The people of Ottawa are being denied the lawful use, enjoyment, and operation of their property, and you are causing businesses to close. that is mischief under the criminal code. Charges and or convictions related to unlawful activity associated with the demonstration may lead to denial and crossing the USA border. The Federal Emergencies Act allows for the regulation or prohibition of travel to, from, or within any specified area. This means that anyone coming to Ottawa for the purposes of joining the ongoing demonstration is breaking the law. The Act also provides police with a number of measures, including the ability to seize vehicles that are part of this demonstration. Ontario law, or in brackets EMCPA, now prohibits interference with any critical infrastructure, including 400 series highways, railways, airports, and international border crossings. It prohibits you from preventing someone from traveling to or from walkways, bridges, and highways and other 400 series highways, or preventing anyone from using them. It also prohibits someone from seriously interfering with the safety, health, or well-being of members of the public. Anyone who commits these illegal actions could face fine or be required to appear in court. Commercial vehicles driver's licenses and private driver's licenses can be suspended or revoked.
So that's it. I mean, they're trying to punch, check all the boxes on things that are going to scare these truckers. Like, if you don't leave, you could get charged. If you don't leave and you get charged, you might not ever be able to cross the border again. We might take away your truck. You won't be able to get insurance. We'll take your license away. We'll do this to you, that to you, this to you, that to you. What you're doing is illegal. Well, that remains to be seen. I'm not even sure that the invocation of the Emergencies Act is lawful or constitutional. I'm not sure that a lot of things that they're saying are unlawful or actually unlawful. I'm not sure that this is an unlawful protest. In fact, a judge who said that the truckers had to stop honking their horns when providing that injunction to the municipality declared it to be a lawful protest. And these assertions that they're preventing local people from opening their businesses and so on, I'm not even sure that's accurate. That there are choices being made. Some of them are not opening. They're choosing not to. Many others are opening, and they are making actually more money now than they have in a long time, because it was the government that was locking them down. So all of these things can be disputed. But the point here is they are getting ready to move in and take action. We have shown you over the past 3 weeks that this has been an entirely peaceful protest. There hasn't been any violence down there at all. Crime is down measurably and demonstrably by about 90%, according to the municipality's own statistics, since the truckers have arrived. The homeless are being fed by the truckers because they're giving away food down there. What are the police doing to break this demonstration up, which has been earmarked and highlighted with bouncy castles for kids and posters with the words freedom, love, unity spread all over the place? Police tonight apparently are amassing their force of officers to come in to make mass arrests. It appears it's going to happen sooner rather than later, because they're handing out this final warning now. And what is of extreme concern to me tonight, Brendan, is we have received word, and this is not just to us, but many people are hearing now, that they have flown in and have borrowed, apparently from the military, not exactly sure where it's coming from, but they have something called an LRAD, which is a long-range acoustic device, which is a crowd control device, and it uses high-frequency sound waves, which are highly focused, like a laser beam. It's like a laser focus, high-tech laser beam style focus of sound waves that they direct at crowds to try to disperse them. This is what I'm concerned about tonight. These devices have been shown to cause permanent damage to people. It'll blow out people's, they can blow out people's eardrums. These devices can cause brain damage. They can cause damage to internal organs. This is footage that we have. Hang on a second here. I'm going to bring this back up. It was used for the first time at a G20 summit. I'll find that footage for you again. I had it queued up.
While you're doing that, I guess I'll point out here. So it seems to me like they don't give a crap what's lawful and what's not lawful, and they've been ordered by their higher-ups to more or less march in and arrest people.
Because it can, this was back in 2009 at a G20 summit, used for the very first time. This is video footage of it. And this can cause permanent hearing damage to the people that they aim this at. This is what police are going to be doing, apparently. I don't know how this information was leaked out, but this is the word on the street. So that's what that looks like.
So it could cause chronic damage to hearing, internal organs.
So yeah. So they're gonna that apparently is what they're planning to use, and it looks like that the plan, and this is some speculation, but it looks like what they want to do is come in there in the middle of the night or whatever when the crowd is down, and then go in there with this thing and shoot it at people. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. I'm going to remind all Canadians tonight again that this is the government acting against some of its own citizens. These are not terrorists. These are truckers, moms and dads, everyday people, working class people. Justin Trudeau has nothing but contempt for them. He just sees a bunch of redneck, toothless hicks down there. That's what he thinks. And tonight, it's pretty clear that the federal government, by Justin Trudeau invoking the Emergencies Act, is directing police, which is entirely inappropriate. This is what's actually going on. Government, politicians should never have control of your police force and direct them, especially in a political operation like this. And even though these police are not military, it doesn't matter how you dress them or whether it says police or army. These officers are being militarized and weaponized politically tonight. It's a dangerous, slippery slope we are on. And every Canadian should be standing up against this and be extremely concerned about it, because this just shows how far he's willing to go to save his political neck. It's dangerous. It's cruel. It's barbaric. And it shows Justin Trudeau's dark, tyrannical side. It shows that he's not worthy of holding the office of Prime Minister. Just even thinking about using this against Canadian citizens, our own people who have been down there, and I don't care what the mainstream lying media says, these people have been entirely peaceful. Street hockey games, playing for a thing called the Unity Cup, dancing, singing the national anthem, wrapping Canadian flags around each other, hugging. feeding the homeless, not stealing from them. What they're about to do, folks, is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And Justin Trudeau, you should be ashamed of yourself. You have no business holding that office. Your days are numbered because your own party will turn against you, because what you're doing is absolutely 150,000% wrong. You are on the wrong side of history. The way you are manipulating things, the way you are weaponizing police, the way you're pushing this pressure down the tubes, down the chain of command from your office all the way down to the local police officers, and you're using those guys as pawns and putting them in a terrible position, because every one of those guys tonight now has to decide whether they're doing the right thing or not. They have to weigh everything because of the position you're putting them in. You're going to hurt your own people. Don't do this. Don't do this. This is wrong. I've got another video I'm going to queue up. I found out a little bit more information about this LRAD.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, the other evidence I have here that looks like that they're going to go forward with a motion or go forward and forcefully drive everybody out is
So here's a video. I just found this, and it's not my video. I was like, what is this thing? Because I'm not really familiar with it, but I learned enough about it this afternoon after doing a little bit of research to know that this is a really bad idea. Okay, listen to this thing. This guy created this video over a year ago. So this is he's sort of a hobbyist or whatever, but he understands this technology. And listen to what he says about this.
Yeah,
because you have those inverted waveforms on the side doing their normal job of dispersion. There's so many fun and modern uses of this technology. However, unfortunately, today we have to concentrate on how to stop ultrasonic waves since they're being used to harm human beings. I'm trying really, really hard to just stick to my zone and not go on a fucking tangent. But one thing that's absolutely disgusted me is that a lot of these companies that are selling LRADs to police departments and cities are marketing them as extremely safe. If you live in a city in America, it's actually probable that your tax dollars have paid for some of these devices, and they are not cheap by a long shot. It's kind of hard to get your hands on the law enforcement manual for using these devices, but I've seen some of them, and the front few pages just bragging about how it's a very safe and effective crowd deterrent device, and then every page after that has a warning about how if you get in between the crowd and the device itself, you could cause yourself permanent physical damage, permanent hearing loss, all of these things, and it's just full of warnings. But the warning only applies to law enforcement or military, not the people that you're actually shooting the fucking thing at. The human beings that they're using LRADs on do not understand how the technology works. The police officers or military personnel who are operating LRAD do not understand how the technology works. The mayors or governors or police chiefs who are using taxpayer money to pay for LRAD devices do not understand how this technology works. If you're a government employee or a police officer or you work in City Hall, anything, you need to go to your superiors and let them know that this is not safe to be using on your citizens. And you know what? Even if you don't care about your citizens, or if you're one of those people who just says, well, if they don't want to get hurt, don't protest. Someone is going to figure out that this has caused hearing loss, and they're going to be able to prove it, and it's going to cost you millions of dollars in litigation. If you have an LRAD device that has a targeted amplification rating of higher than 90 decibels, you are hurting the people you are pointing it at. Period. All right, everybody, please stay safe, and don't forget to wear a mask and wash your hands frequently throughout all of this. If you learned anything from this video, if you liked it, smash that subscribe button. And now, watch me give myself...
Looks like there's a number of lawsuits against governments for using these in the past in New York, Pittsburgh. It looks like there was also a case in the G20 summit. I'm looking that up right now, and it went in favor of the plaintiffs, supposedly.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. This just shows how inept, how small, and how weak Justin Trudeau is. That he would direct a police service to do something like this. And you know something else, Brendan? I was thinking today. Who resigned yesterday? Ottawa's police chief, right? Was it yesterday? Yep.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
You know what, man? Maybe Chief Slawley isn't such a bad guy after all. Because you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking he wasn't prepared to go this far. And they said, have a nice day. Here's your handshake. There's the door. That's what I think. And the smears against the chief in the media, suggesting that he's been kind of a bully and volatile behind closed doors, that's just to discredit him as he leaves, to shut him up and keep him silent. And that's my theory. No, I can't prove that, but you know what, man? Anyway you slice it, this is just wrong. And I'm appealing tonight to the Prime Minister. Direct message to Justin Trudeau. Please, do not do this. Don't do this. I'm appealing to the Mayor of Ottawa. I'm appealing to the Ottawa Police Services Board. And I'm asking the interim chief, please, do not do this. It is my understanding from what I've been hearing that it will be the local Ottawa Police Service that will be deploying this weapon and will be responsible for using it. If that's the case, and since you, interim chief, will be directing operations there and will be integral in directing all of the officers from all of your partner police services, I beg you, please do not deploy this weapon on your own people. It's irresponsible. It's immoral. It's cruel. And there's no need for you to do this. You know it. You know it.
I could show you why. So I did find the ACLU had done the lawsuit with the city of Pittsburgh, and I have the details here. So in Pittsburgh, the city of Pittsburgh has agreed to pay more than $200,000 to settle 2 cases stemming from the actions of the city during the September 2009 G20 summit, including $72,000 to Karen Piper, a bystander who suffered permanent hearing loss after Pittsburgh police deployed a long-range acoustic device on a neighborhood street. The city of Pittsburgh must understand that violating the free speech rights of individuals comes at a price, said Reggie Shufford, executive director of the ACLU of Pennsylvania. Hopefully the city will show greater respect to people's rights to peaceful protest in the future. The LRAD, which emits harmful, pain-inducing sounds over long distances, in another document I'd seen up to 5 kilometers it could be effective, was developed for the use by the military and was used against U.S. civilians for the first time in Pittsburgh. Piper, who at the time was visiting professor at CMU and was a bystander at the event, suffered permanent hearing damage after police used the LRAD in an apparent attempt to disperse protesters on September 24th of 2009. And so it just kind of goes on.
So
that.
the point is.
The point is they. It clearly doesn't work out too good when they do use this thing, and that people have been quite successful with legal actions.
Yes, and I know that Carla was down on the street today, and I believe this is a video that she just shot just a short time ago, talking to a woman who is handing out earplugs, I believe. Let's, is this the clip?
No, I don't care. Okay, so listen, there's a lady who's passing out earplugs because there has been some talk of what is it called?
It's a big, loud,
like it's a sonic boom
I guess
that's coming. So I'm going to ask Cindy, one of the people who've been here. She's a resident of Sarnia. She's been here. She's heard about this. This is the first I've heard. All I know is a lady was passing out earplugs. So we'll ask Cindy, and then I'm going to try to ask the lady who's passing out the earplugs as well. So let's find out what's going on with these earplugs.
Sorry about the audio, but listen to what she's saying. Try to.
Big sonic noise machines coming. I guess it drives you crazy. Your stomach probably will return. Your head will. I guess they use it in wartime. So they're bringing that here, and supposedly sometimes today, and then they're going to use it at night. That's what I heard. And now, an hour later, the troops going around handing out hearing aids. So that's all I know. So I hope it's not true, but we'll see. Anyway, have a nice day, everybody.
Wait, Cindy, let's just go ahead and ask you. So how, like, you came up here because you had to see what was going on. What's the vibe been like?
Well, I'm having my own, like, I'm dancing. Like, my son looks at me and runs away when I'm dancing. I'm having so much fun with everybody. It's so friendly. Somebody from Ottawa gave me a quick walk tour. You know, the canal and the locks. She took me to the veteran thing and hands-on, and she lives here. And people, she wants to.
So even the citizens,
What's that?
even the citizens want it gone.
Yeah, and I want it gone too. But I don't want any virus.
No.
Stop mandates. And if you want to wear a mask, people wear it. Honestly, God, people don't mandate. And I'm also tired of people leaving their job. Like this girl here, I don't know if she's going to report it. They used her for 20 months, maybe 22. And then after things have simmered down, they let her go. You need to have money. They're using it. That's disgusting. They do that to anybody. A nurse, a doctor. And I know somebody else is going to lose their job March 1st if she doesn't get her third job. I think that's true. Anyway, it's by the way, it's my birthday.
So happy birthday, Cindy. What a great place to be on your birthday, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Okay.
Is it gone? I can't change it now.
It's great. Cindy's wondering if she can change it because it's live. Just be free, Cindy. Just be you. So it is Cindy's birthday. That is Cindy Esser. So if you know Cindy Esser, send her a message on Facebook. Unless you're here in Ottawa, you can come up and give her a little birthday hug. So I just found this lovely lady who's been passing out earplugs. Let's just try and get some of let's get the scoop. Find out why. Hi there, I'm Carla. So I was just telling my viewers that you were passing out these earplugs. I thought it was cheesy poofs, but it's earplugs. So no, we won't eat them. So what is the reason for these?
Well, it's just, we don't know for sure, but what I've heard from people who, from the Chatham-Sarnia announcement, said the police might use a sonic boom at the protesters to scatter everybody. We don't know if it'll happen or not, but the earphones are a good idea. It's better than nothing. Another thing you can do too is protect your ears. Is you can put your jaw like this. And at the flow stations,
Sort of like when you fly a plane. Like what we do when we fly in a plane. Wonderful. Okay, and so what is the fallout from this sonic boom? What else can happen other than...
I don't know. I've heard that it can affect the whole body, but I don't know if they will do it or not. Maybe it's just scare tactics. And our first station sit around that table.
Sorry about the audio,
Right.
folks.
Just to be protective.
I mean, it's really sad that it's gone. You know, the
I can hardly hear her. So I'm just going to pull this down because the audio is
Over a
not good.
conversation.
But the thing is, yeah, even earplugs, may not be adequate for
Yes.
this, and it can make people dizzy. It can, depending on the device they use and what the frequency is, it can scramble your innards. Like it affect your intestines, make you nauseous. It vibrates your skull. It can blow out your eardrums. It vibrates the pupils of your eyes, apparently, and can disrupt your vision. So very
I have
concerning, and I'm just disgusted with what they're freaking thinking of doing down there.
I have a a testimony from somebody who worked at the Royal Navy.
Okay, well,
And-
Brian Everaert is joining us now, so let's bring him into the discussion. How are you tonight, Brian?
Hey guys, thanks for inviting me on. Just making sure you got my audio and everything good. I'm kind of set up real fast here, but yeah, I saw this thing today. Carla Olson. I'm happy you guys have Carla on. Carla's up from Sarnia. She's a Sarnia Lambton nurse that had lost her job up at Blue Water Health, and she's been spending her whole time up in Ottawa, and I'm proud of her for that. And she's a fighter, and she's all about freedom. But this thing that you guys are talking about, I actually watched today and started to hear about it, and I hope to God they don't run it on the citizens down there. I think any weapon that they want to use, a sound weapon or any other form, is absolutely unacceptable during the peaceful protest in Ottawa, and that's exactly what it is. So for God's sakes, I hope they don't use any sort of sound weapon. And I don't know a whole bunch about them. Quite frankly, it's very disappointing to watch the people preparing to have some force put on them. I know for a fact from being down in Ottawa or up in Ottawa for a couple weekends ago and then last weekend, there's no need for it. The threshold is not there for the Emergency Act. These people are peaceful, freedom-loving Canadians, your everyday average Canadian. So, I think if they use these weapons on our citizens, I think they will never live it down. I think it will be a moment in history, a black eye in the country. And you know what? I have confidence that Canadians will stand up no matter what they try to do, because it is about freedom down, or up there, I should say.
So, I mean, they kept saying they wanted to, Police Services Board, police, we want to resolve this peacefully, but just, there's a simple way to resolve this. Justin Trudeau just needs to come out there and speak with these guys. But instead, they're looking at doing this, and they're sending in, I think, potentially thousands of police officers to clean this up. What do you think of that, Brian? Who's being violent here? It doesn't look like the protesters to me.
Well, Rick, it's very simple. He never ever spoke to anyone. There was no, and it wasn't about having a negotiation and trying to hold the government hostage by the freedom people and the truckers. It was about having a mirror and sticking it in front of Trudeau's face and letting him take a look at what he's done to the country. And the Canadians don't want it. He's at 16% in his favorability about the Emergency Act call. He is sinking, and he is sinking fast. And if he would have just came out, instead of addressing the people as the way he did with some of the terms and the way he labeled the people who were merely wanting to get rid of the mandates, they've been saying it all along, dump the mandates. That's all he had to do was get rid of the vaccine passport. I'm a firm believer if Justin Trudeau would have come out, made one step, and that is to drop the vaccine passport, just drop it, and then have some discussion, the trucks would be gone. You can almost guarantee that if he would have done that after the first weekend and said, listen, we think we made a mistake. People who are fully vaxxed can get and spread COVID. The passports make no sense. We're going to drop them, and we're going to sign something into law that states we'll never implement them again. I think he would have had the ear of the public. Justin Trudeau, believe it or not, and I was talking to my spouse here last night about it, he had an opportunity to totally change the narrative for himself if he just would have come out and accepted what they asked for. And how many times I had a few people at work, we got in a debate, and we were debating about the fact that if he gives in to these folks, then there'll be another group come up in a few months or 6 months. And I told them, no, they won't. We've never seen a unifying issue and as unifying as the trucker movement in Canada. We've never seen it before. You have to have everything in line. In order to get this many people unified to do to see what's happened here, you have to have the right issue. And I'll tell you what it is. It's about freedom. Freedom is the heart and soul of Canadian democracy, and that's what it's about. If they were going to try to steal our freedom another way, yes, I would say we would gather again. That's why we go to war. We go to war to protect democracy. That's why we have people on our borders. That's why we have military watching our shorelines, because we protect what we have, because Canada and I'm still going to say it because it's true, is the best country in the world. And you're seeing it down in Ottawa and around locally too at the bridges. You're seeing people stand up. And I think Justin Trudeau missed an opportunity for the Liberal Party. He should have shown some leeway, shown some better judgment, listened to the population that's down there. Because I'll tell you what, Rick, there's people that are still out there. You go into our northern communities and stuff that just want to be left alone. They're not in Ottawa, not yet. But if he continues to push the envelope by putting these orders in about seizing bank accounts and taking unprecedented steps that are frankly a slap in the face of Canadians, I think he's going to find himself in a losing battle. And, you know, I'm really hoping that the police take some reconsideration. I've always been a Blue Line supporter. I'm a police supporter, and I support the police. And you know, it's very hard for me to watch them be in the position that they're in Ottawa, because I interacted with a lot of them when I was down there, and the way I see it is they don't want to do it. Now there are some people, and it's everywhere, that will make the choice to follow and listen to what they're being told. But I'm hoping that the police step back. If they're asked to use stuff and violence on our citizens, that they pull the reins back a bit, and maybe I'm not saying step right in with the protesters, but I'd like to see them back off. If they're going to use physical force on the peace-loving people down in Ottawa, I think they're going to do a disservice to the other police across the country. And if they do that, we'll lose trust. And I think freedom's on our side. So I think Justin Trudeau's I think he's in big trouble. I think it's not sustainable what he has done, and he needs to come back and he needs to start negotiating a path forward, and that is getting rid of the mandates. And we all know it. Like, let's face it, guys. How many times have I am blue in the face talking about the fact that if you're fully vaccinated, don't get me wrong, I'm not an anti-vax person. I'm about choice. So if you want to get 10 vaccines, that's up to you. Go ahead and do it. But this thing where you can get and spread COVID when you're vaxxed with the booster, like, I just don't understand the logic behind the fact of segregation to the unvaxxed. And I always say this, is it some kind of designer COVID that these people who are fully vaxxed, they don't want an unvaxxed person near them? And I think it's because they've been misled. The media has misled them and led them astray. And there's a lot of people who are worried to go out into a restaurant because of the unvaxxed. And it's because of the media, and it's because of the narrative they've pushed down people's throats for 2 years. They don't really even understand what it is, like what can happen. It's crazy.
That's a good point. A couple of good points there. You're absolutely right that we've seen in the past with Black Lives Matter protests that police have had excellent success in de-escalating situations by just taking the knee. And maybe not necessarily joining the protest, but in some cases de-escalating it entirely. That's just an example of how this could go in a much better way, despite the politics. And then the second thing that you said there, it definitely media induced that we've had these vaccine passports. That in and of itself suggests that you're going to spread COVID if you're not vaccinated. Because what in the hell is the point in having the vaccine passport if you could still spread COVID? So they've made people afraid, and I've even seen in my own community people have had parties where they didn't let people who are unvaccinated go. That is the extent of the brainwashing that has been done. And
speaking of brainwashing, can I ask you a question, Brian? You're seeing this footage right now. This is live footage, in and around the Parliament Hill area, and they keep using words like siege. Does this? Well, no. To me, a siege would involve some foreign armed forces coming here, soldiers with tanks lining the streets and holding the entire city, hostage, right? So this is, does this look like a city under siege to you?
Well, not at all, Rick. And the thing is, too, like, I talked a bit about it. Like I said, I was in a little bit of a debate today at work, and it's 3 blocks back. So if you go down Wellington, the front of Parliament, you've got a bunch of activity going on that road. And then if you go I guess 3 blocks down each way and 3 blocks back. That's what you have. And most of the area is right at the Parliament buildings. And you know what? I don't buy it. The locals that are in Ottawa are not spending their days down at the Parliament buildings. And if you go anywhere else in the city, it's open for business. So this thing about, oh, they're occupying Ottawa and they're doing all this. No, they're not. They're in the capital of Canada. They're in Ottawa and they're up close to the buildings. To me, there's no siege. You know, I kind of say it like this, and a lot of people might not like this, but if you're living in the capital, you know that there's controversy. You know that there is a protest, risk of protest. And I'm not trying to belittle or make a less of the people's complaints, but if you take a look at what went on there's a lot of accommodation by the protesters and the truckers, and I've seen it. There's open lanes. In fact, I stayed at the Delta. I parked in the underground parking, and they had it rigged so that people coming in and out of the hotels, they'd slide back the vehicles. It was mostly city trucks blocking entry, like a big plow, so it was never the truckers made the choice to block off the whole heart of the city. That's not true at all. If you go around Ottawa, you can function fully. And, you know, we hear this thing about, oh, they're honking their horns and how would you like to smell diesel all night? Well, there's very few people that are dealing with that. And the thing is like you say before, Brendan, you said about the Black Lives Matter needs by the cops and all that. And I'm going to give some kudos to the cops right now, the police that are down there, because I spoke to a lot of them who are on the side of the citizens, and it's every one of them. I did not have a conversation with a single police officer in Ottawa, and I spoke to a lot of them that weren't on the side of freedom. Now, that being said, we didn't hear this stuff when they were ripping statues down. We didn't hear this stuff when, you know, COVID was in supposedly mid-flow. Like we were in the pandemic where we didn't have as much information, and they were given a free pass to the Black Lives Matter movement. And like you say, Trudeau down and kneeling in Parliament, kneeling out on the lawn and taking part. All that stuff was excused. And, you know, one of the other things, going back to the Terry Fox statue and all the propaganda, somebody urinating on the tomb of the unknown soldier, all that stuff was just misleading and a total lie. And, you know, be quite honest with you, I wouldn't put anything on Terry Fox. None of the statues, I think that to me, I just wouldn't do it. But I'm going to tell you what, I looked at what the people down there did by putting a cape of a Canadian flag on Terry Fox and a Team Canada hat on him after the disgrace that I watched of pulling down statues in this country over the past couple of years. And then I see this and they go full bore on trying to paint the people who did it as terrible people. And I'm going to tell you something. I wouldn't doubt if Terry Fox is up there looking down with 2 big thumbs up, because what I seen was Terry Fox being shown as a true Canadian patriot, and people that are saying, you know, Terry Fox, what he did is like a Canadian thing. And you know what? I guarantee they put the hat and cape on him because they thought that he would think that it was a good thing. It was not meant in a negative way. And that being said, I would have chosen not to do it because I know the way the media is going to go. They blow everything out of proportion. They go the wrong way every time. Just when you think they won't do it, they do it. They show fault. They for God's sakes, we had the CBC talking about Russian influence and in the start of this thing, that the truckers were down Russian influence on them. And, you know, you watch it and it makes you sick to your stomach. And that's why I'm happy, and I've been happy to stand beside Maxime Bernier in the PPC because of the defunding of the CBC. It has to happen. We've witnessed it through the whole time. CTV, same thing. But I'm going to tell you what, it was refreshing to watch people tell them no in Ottawa. When there was some times when they wanted to be involved, you could see how angry the mainstream media got when they weren't allowed into the scrums and into the back rooms. And you know what? It took a couple times telling them no. And if you kind of seen a little bit of change in their narrative, and then they went right back to the other way. So I'm happy, and I'm glad that they told CBC no and CTV no, because they won't put the truth out there. And the fact is we need the truth more than ever. 2 years, like I've been critical of the MPs No one wanted to speak out. And like 338 seats, as far as I'm concerned, need to be refit and reset, because can you imagine?
So
Yeah, go
speaking
ahead.
of propaganda, I mean,
Yeah.
the government and the media have been using propaganda to spin this whole thing and to justify the use of the Emergencies Act. And this is a clip now of, I believe this is Pierre Poilievre, conservative, probably conservative leader in waiting, and he's saying that Justin Trudeau basically ginned this up and manufactured this whole thing. So let's listen to this clip, and then we'll get your reaction to that.
Okay.
We don't have a visual, Rick Walker, but we have some audio.
There you go. We got it back now, I think.
Sorry there, Brendan. We need audio? Is that what
We
you're
have
saying?
no visual and
No
a little
visual.
bit audio.
Okay, hang on. All right, I've got the wrong page up. I've got this queued up multiple times. So, sorry, folks. I will find the right one. I think it's this one here. We have audio?
No visual, no audio.
Hang on. I apologize for the technical problems.
Yeah, well, that's okay, Rick. That's minor compared to what the country's facing right now.
Actually, if you're probably going to need to stop screen share because it's stuck on.
Hang on just a second.
Your chat box. Interestingly enough, there was a new statue of Gassy Jack who was torn down in Vancouver at a women's march the other day, and the media did not use anywhere near the same language. It's very surreal to look at.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's strange. It's very strange, but it's by design. We know what
Here we
they're
go.
doing.
Here's the clip of Poilievre.
No audio.
Yeah, we're not getting any audio, Rick.
No audio?
Yeah.
No, you can just hear him a little bit.
I'm going to switch it to.
My apologies, folks. Do you have the clip, Brendan?
Yeah, one moment. She blows.
Yeah. I was very disappointed with the
There you
statue. All right, there you go. You got her up there.
Well, we know now why Justin Trudeau has provoked. We know now why Justin Trudeau has provoked a division and crisis. It's to distract from yet another 30-year high in inflation. Food prices ballooning. Gas prices up to $1.82 a liter in Vancouver. The typical house now costs $836,000, up 25 grand in just 1 month. Trudeau has provoked this crisis to distract Canadians from his inflation and the economic pain he is causing the people of this country. It's time to put an end to Trudeau's divisions and get to work for Canadians.
Est-ce qu'il est temps de mettre fin à ce qui se passe dehors ici à Ottawa? Êtes-vous d'accord avec eux?
Ce que je dis, c'est que Justin Trudeau a provoqué cette crise pour donner l'attention. C'est quand Justin répondait, fait des provocations et répondait par la paix. Est-ce que je peux répondre mieux que c'est égoïste? Donc, again in English, Justin Trudeau has caused this crisis to distract from his inflation and the pain he is causing Canadians in their economic lives. Now, my message to protesters is, when he acts with meanness and intimidation, you respond with calm and peace. Show Canadians that you're better than this divider and this egoist. Thank you very much.
Hey, do I get an
Thank you.
English question? Do I get an English question, or is this just a campaign ad?
It's clear the Prime Minister has more of a political emergency on his hands than a
Okay,
national emergency.
let's pull that out.
The borders that
Yep.
Well,
So what do you think, Brian?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not a big fan of Pierre Poilievre, and the reason for that is that he's an opportunist. And of course, he has no other. What else is he going to say? He was stuck talking about inflation over the past 2 years. Well, we were losing our freedoms, and you know it's like that with the Conservatives all the time. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that that type of talk is happening in Ottawa right now with our opposition. But I'm going to tell you guys, watching it for 2 years, they never said a peep. And I'll give you an example. Like we watched when the truckers got into Ottawa, where you would see the Conservatives out, including Pierre, dressed in their suits. That Monday, the first Monday back going to work, they're all out for photo ops. A few of them. And but you didn't see them out in their skidoo suits. You didn't see them out like Bernier out among the people. They used it as a photo op, and it's really the back room still that controls them. Nothing changed when Aaron O'Toole went down. He kept his seat. He's still an MP. There's no new members of the party. And I have a little spin myself. I think Pierre is throwing her out there right now, but I'll make a prediction, political prediction, on your show tonight, and we'll see if I get it right. I'm going to predict Leslyn Lewis will end up winning for the Conservatives because she, to me, is a more electable person for like places like Toronto where the populace is. So that's a prediction I'm going to make. I think when Pierre Poilievre came out and made his speech about him, that he was going to run for Prime Minister, he left out the part that he has to run for the leadership first. And don't think that the people in the back room of the Conservative Party are Pierre Poilievre fans. You got to remember, Aaron O'Toole sat him in the backbenches for a little while when he upstaged him. He seemed to be more popular than Aaron, and obviously he was. And he sat him in the back seats, and Pierre said nothing. And the main part why I don't think they can be trusted is if you take a look, where's their wiggle room? They can't side with the Prime Minister because they're just not going to do it because he's a tyrant. And deep down, I don't think that you can compare the Conservatives to the Liberals when it comes to a whole sort of other policies. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If I got elected in 2021 here in Sarnia-Lambton, and my party, let's just say Maxime Bernier was in there too, and I'm watching the freedom getting taken with the vaccine mandates, and my party, the whip, came down to tell me, Brian, you need to shut it. You need to be quiet. And I would say flat out, they're taking our freedom from us. And I'm telling you guys, there's no way that I would sit still and let it get to where it is. When we have opposition, they're supposed to speak up. And, the old defense, well, Brian, he's going to get booted out of the party. Then so be it. There's lots of people that would be booted out. We had some with Sloan. We had some with different people. They got the boot because they spoke up. Pierre Poilievre never did that. He kept talking about inflation for the last year straight, and I get it. But when you don't have freedom, you don't have anything. And every Conservative member of Parliament, every seat, was guilty of not standing up for the people of Canada. So unforgivable to me. I don't care which way Pierre goes or the Conservative Party thinks they're going to go. I did a debate in the last election up with the Rotary Club up here in Sarnia. They asked me the question, I think the first one was about farmers, and I answered every question with a beg to the other candidates to talk about the vaccine passports. Marilyn Gladue up here in Sarnia said nothing. She ignored me and stayed away from the vaccine mandates and passports, just like every other Conservative has done. Now they're turning, provincially, Bob Bailey up here too. They're turning. Now all of a sudden you see Doug Ford out today pulling the same thing. They can't be trusted. You got to remember, the Conservatives signed on the 2030 agenda. The Conservatives, including Pierre Poilievre, signed on the Paris Accord agreement. He voted yes for that. No way. So he can come out and say whatever he wants. I call him Skippy because that's what he reminds me of. He comes out and he does things that are popular, but he doesn't lead. And that's the difference. If you notice, the people in the PPC, and I'll bring us back up, we haven't changed, guys. Like we've been on this since day one, even when it wasn't popular. Quite frankly, I'm disgusted how far they let it go. When Pierre Poilievre says Justin Trudeau created this mess to cover up his inaction on the economy, I don't buy that one bit. Because did they want him to do this? Did the Conservatives turn around and let him shoot a hole in his own boat so they could get power? Did they let the country go just so they can start to seize power? Is that what the Conservatives have done? Because, everybody could see we were losing our freedoms with vaccine mandates. We've been protesting for how long?
Yeah, and tonight it seems to me that statement from Poilievre really kind of misses the mark because, while that may be true, he might be looking for a distraction. I think it's more sinister than that. And I think the thing to focus on here is that the true national crisis is the decision to invoke the Emergencies Act itself. That's the crisis.
Rick, you're 100% correct.
It's not justified. It does not meet the test.
You are correct. And you know what? Where was he? And I said it today again to a colleague. What about the Emergency Act? What about it? Why aren't they talking about it? You brought up the very good point. And that's the thing. Because they don't want to. Because it's not popular. The polls are not showing that it is. So they're not willing to go out there and take a stand for freedom. And I'll tell you what. When you have a group of politicians that we have, the elitists, I'll tell you, you have to take a stand on it. And I won't deny that when I watch them do their spin, because I've been dealing with it since 2019 with the split the vote stuff and all this. And I can honestly say to the people watching out here tonight, how do you like your vote split? How do you like it? How do you like the silence for the last 2 years and everything's been taken from us? We're in a state of almost like a war act, emergency order.
That's what it is. It's
the
modern
version
of the Roe Measures Act.
They can take your bank account, political dissidents get taken, their bank accounts frozen. And you want to know why we're here? Because of the silence of our opposition. And everybody can say, oh, well, no, they're not. I'm telling you right now, if it would have happened and we would have even had 4, 6, 8 PPC seats, you guys know, Rick, I know you do for sure, that if I was in the House, I'd be screaming bloody murder right now. And you know what I would have done? Mm-hmm. I would have done what I would call a populist politician would do, and that is unite your constituents behind you as a force. And if the Conservatives would have done that in each of their ridings, instead of remain silent, get along to go along with the Liberals, everybody don't say anything, we're all in this together. They did that at the debates, remember? We're all in this together. Remember They stood out and did that over the vaccines? Oh, you're damn right they're all in it together. And
that's a really good point there, because Justin Trudeau tried to say that this election that we just had was a referendum on vaccine passports and COVID policies, but it was never even debated in the election, and it certainly was never talked about in the House of Commons until recently.
Right. Well, that's you're right. They wouldn't let the PPC in to talk about it.
Well, exactly. Anybody who talked about it was a fringe loser and had to be kicked out. Oh, you can't talk like that because somebody might not get their shot, and then they'll kill grandma. It's absolute horse crap.
Well, it is absolute. And, that's what my fear was. And we said it all along, that the only split vote was between the Conservatives and the Liberals. If you wanted a truth teller in the PPC, we had so many candidates. Liz Valley, I was hoping so much, and I got to say it, I was hoping so much that we would have taken the Southwestern Ontario group that did so well down here in the 3 tight ridings, and we would have got to sit with each other up in the House. Because I know that if I had Liz, Kevin Mitchell, and myself up there, we would have been out, and we would have rallied our constituents, and that was the solution for the Conservatives. They're so into keeping their constituents away from their business, when in fact they work for us. And when they need a hand, you lean on your people. Yes, the MP or MPP is there to serve, but when you need help, Canadians unite, and you can see behind me the purple and white Unite for Freedom signs. And that's what we do in Canada. But to sit silent and allow that narrative, I'm telling you guys, and there's a lot of people that don't understand, but I have as much, how can I say, anger and disappointment in the Conservatives as I do in the Liberals, because I see them as the same. I see them as they working as a team. I see the 2030 stuff. I see globalization. Even in they don't talk about, like you say, what the important issue today is the Emergency Act. We're watching history here right now, and it's bad history. The opposition talks about inflation, but they don't, oh, he's going to use it to hide. Why don't we talk about it's not even the elephant in the room, it's the elephant in front of our faces that's screaming at us, but they don't talk about it because they're being told not to. And that's what we can't have it. We can't have
it. This strips people of all our rights. This gives the government power to do, this gives Trudeau true dictatorial powers. He can do virtually anything he wants. If he doesn't like you because you are opposed to him politically, he can now target you and screw you over for life, which brings us back to the crisis at hand. And a clip that I'd like to cue up here with, this is Professor Jordan Peterson. And he turned his platform over today to one of the figureheads, if you will, for the trucker movement out of Ottawa to clarify what the truckers' positions and demands are, because there's been a lot of confusion around that. So I'd like to play that clip for you because, Trudeau is justifying the use of the Emergencies Act, which is the modern equivalent of the War Measures Act. It's a declaration of war against the truckers and his political opponents. That's what it is. A literal declaration of war. And he's weaponizing and militarizing police based on this idea that you have these militant truckers down there trying to overthrow the government somehow, that it has to meet that kind of threshold. But let's listen to what the truckers have to say, or what this trucker has to say, and get a sense of where the truckers are really at, what they really want. And you determine after listening to this what kind of a threat these truckers really pose to the integrity and the future of the country.
I'm here today with Mr. Benjamin Dichter, who's the owner-operator of his own rig. And hello, everyone. I'm here today with Mr. Benjamin Dichter, who's the owner-operator of his own rig and integrally involved with the organization and ongoing activities of the Truckers Convoy in Ottawa. And so Mr. Dichter has something to read to us today, which outlines what the truckers have accomplished and wanted to accomplish and hope to still accomplish. And I thought this would be a really good way of informing everyone in as direct a manner as possible of what the aims of this protest movement, what are the aims of this protest movement. So Mr. Dichter, thank you for being willing to talk to me, and I'll let you say anything you want and also to take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. And so we just prepared a statement that can really solidify some of the basics so nobody's confused. So I'm going to read exactly what our statement is. The Freedom Convoy is a peaceful and loving demonstration based on the principles of unity and respect for all Canadians. We have come to Ottawa with two very simple demands. One, the government end all COVID mandates. And two, the federal government remove its digital COVID tracking app called ArriveCan as a requirement to re-enter Canada. We have not anticipated the thirst for freedom in all Canadians after 2 long years of restrictions and harsh lockdowns, which in the minds of sensible Canadians are not in the spirit of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and our esteemed Constitution. The supporters of our convoy have come from all walks of life and have been a source of unification for Canadians from across all provinces and cultures. We are not a group interested in identity politics or racial divisions. We are, in fact, open to all people who want to share their love and help with the revival of the Canadian identity. The Freedom Convoy leadership spans the country and comes from various Indigenous, rural, and urban communities, all who have an ambition for unification and freedom. Our demands have not changed from day one. End the mandates and end the passports. And we will all go back home to our communities and our businesses and help Canada heal from the COVID years. There have been many demands attributed to us that are not our demands, primarily from the legacy media. We do not want to overthrow the government. We do not want to remove any of our elected officials from power. That's what elections are for. We do not want confrontation with the good people of law enforcement. Within our organization and within our crowds, we have countless first responders and military veterans who are all proud of the Ottawa Police. We do not wish for military action. We want nothing other than for our peaceful and loving demonstrations, as well as our community outreach, to help inspire our fellow Canadians to have a voice and to appreciate the freedoms which we are fortunate enough to have and which many others in the world struggle to achieve. We also would ask that our political class and the legacy media tone down their rhetoric. The era of slander and indiscriminately labeling fellow citizens with pejoratives or as racists needs to come to an end. We need to talk openly and respect one another, but we cannot achieve this if our political class continues to behave in such an unparliamentary manner, while the legacy media attacks the very people they are supposed to reach. The unifying goal that all Canadians have is we want to a return to a normal life, a free life, no matter where one lies on the political spectrum. Now is the time, and the first courageous step would be for the federal government to remove these divisive policies of mandates and data tracking of our citizens and allow us all to heal together. Peace, love, and unity is the future of the Canadian identity. Let's inspire the world to follow us on this journey of enlightenment. That's all.
All right. Well, so that in a nutshell is what the truckers protest and the leaders of the truckers protest in Ottawa do and don't want. And that's as clear a statement as we're likely to manage and to receive at this point in time. So, Mr. Dichter, thank you very much for your willingness to share that and for your forthrightness with me and with your fellow Canadians.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure.
So there you have it, guys. I wanted to make sure we ran that entire clip to make sure we didn't take anything out of context to gain as much uncensored, unfiltered, unedited video as possible to give people a true and accurate perspective. And before we get comments on that, just a reminder that Carla Olson will be joining us in a little later in the broadcast with live footage from Ottawa and with some interviews and her commentary. And of course, we are trying to help cover her expenses while she's in Ottawa. If you want to donate, you can go to freedomreporters.com. There's also a donation link in the description on YouTube and on Facebook. And anything you can do would be greatly appreciated. Up until this point, we really haven't monetized anything here, hadn't been asking for anything. We're really just here to try and balance off what the mainstream media is doing with their twisted narratives. And we're just trying to provide balance to that. And obviously what we're doing is resonating with people. There's an appetite for it and an absolute need. And that's also why we've brought Brian Everaert on tonight for his analysis, his input, because his insight is extremely valuable. And what do you think of what the statement was from the truckers tonight, Brian? Where do you think that helps clarify things for the public?
I do, and I think that it hit the nail right on the head for the people that, you know, everybody has the exact same vision that is down in Ottawa and the people who are behind the trucker movement. And it just, you know, it's something I've never really had to be been able to take part in that much of a unification on the same things, and it's multiple things, and it talks about, you know, this thing where we need to get everybody unified from all political stripes, and I agree with that. And I'm going to tell you right now, when I was down there, I got to say, almost for the first time, really, I had some people that I know were NDP supporters and some liberals, and you know what? We were dancing in the streets together, and because it was about freedom, it was for that flash moment down there, and it's still going on, where we could sit back and you know, we used to have the good old days where you could get out on the golf course, and you know, there may be some different political. Somebody might have a red sign in their yard, and somebody might have a blue. But you know what? You could still go out and play a game of golf together. Those days are gone because of the division. And you know, I'll give it to Pierre on that one. The division that is happening in our country politically is absolutely insane.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised to see all these trucks down there in the face of these threats and the possibility of these guys being, you know, really hammered with these new laws by Trudeau?
I feel for them, and you know what? They have huge guts of steel, because I was down, and the last day we were down last Sunday, I tried to hit as many trucks as I could and thank them. And that's what I did. I spent my day doing it. And you want to know something? These guys and girls that are in these trucks are the salt of the earth. They're not rich people. They're not looking for fame. They're not out advertising themselves, and it's all about freedom with them. In fact, they tuck themselves away in their cabs, and I walked by them, and I was humbled so much to be around a group of people who are truly out for what they're saying. There's no hidden anything here. These people in these trucks, and to look at what they're being threatened with, and like losing their insurance, losing their rigs, having their bank accounts seized. It's you know, it's disheartening for me to hear it. But I'm going to tell you something. I know that that it's been said from Max that, you know, no matter what happens, if we can get in there, everything to do with this is going to be dropped. Any fines, anything, seizures of property, all that stuff. And, you know, if you take a look at it, we have our everyday people who make the wheels go round literally in the country that are getting threatened for what they have. And, you know, if you take a look at it, it's not much difference than the vaccine mandates, is it? They kept on offering, oh, you need to do this, or you get this happens to you. If you don't agree with us on this for a booster or a second shot, we're going to do this to you. And, you know, I'll tell you right now, I like to keep my medical stuff private, but I can't go out of the country right now. I can't. I'm not allowed to. I can't even sit in a restaurant in Canada right now. Can you? And it's absolutely ridiculous. And I never ever thought that we'd be at this spot. And it's about a fight now. And like you say, these people are the salt of the earth. I tip my hat to the truckers. You know, I've been out politically since 2019, a little earlier, 2018 provincially, but there's nothing, and I mean that. The amount of guts, and these people are putting their personal property up there, their livelihoods and jobs, and I'm begging the Canadian public, and I've been trying to do it, you got to get behind them. There's no nitpicking about what they're doing. It is flat out about freedom, and that's it. And you know, if you're a Canadian and you don't like freedom, and I've been watching the news trying to demonize the word freedom, saying it's associated with certain groups. Are you kidding me? If you're for freedom, you want a future for the kids, you got to get behind these folks and these truckers. You just have to. We've got a guy who's literally a tyrant running our country right now. And like you said, Rick, political dissidents are going to be in trouble, I think, in Canada. And unless we get this done, we can't let them succeed. We have to have freedom win out in this standoff, I'll call it, between everybody, between Justin Trudeau and the rest of the freedom-loving country. So I'm begging again, the Liberal MPs, all of the provincial MPPs, the Liberal MPs, the NDP MPs, The ones who are sitting in that house and in the legislature right now, and you know what's going on is wrong. Step up. You gotta step up. We are on this guy's putting us on the ropes, and we're gonna lose what the whole world sees as a beacon of hope. People that come to Canada, you know, I say it like this: they've demonized all that is Canadian over the last 10 years. I'd say they really turned it on. You check out our energy sector, you know, all of a sudden gas and oil's bad. The globalization of the world is good. Climate change is out there. Everything that they've done on a global scale is to ruin what makes Canada wealthy and what keeps our social programs going. Like, you take away transfer payments, there goes your health care. That's what happens. But people are marching towards that in Canada because there's a group trying to demonize what we have in this country because they want it. The globalists want it. We have fresh water, gas, oil, minerals, lumber. So this is what we've been watching, a beat down of our country. And to be proud of Canada, they've claimed is almost something to be a sin. And you know what? I've never stopped being proud of Canada. I'm proud of Canada right now, and I will fight with people to preserve freedom, and I'm not going to back down either. We need to fight for it. And just like I said, everything when it comes to our resources, these woke left ideas, we need to unite, and we're going to unite it. And I like to call myself a populist because I am one. I believe that we need to cater to the working people in the country, not the elitists. I believe that that we have been manipulated for years and years. I would say 30 of my life into this where we are right now, and it is by design.
Yeah,
and that's what I see.
Yeah, you really touched on something that I want to get into in a future show in more detail, and that's the way that they twist things on the far left of the political spectrum. You take that word freedom, and they're twisting it and trying to redefine it through a mass media propaganda campaign where they're associating freedom with only far right racist ideas. But you know, it's not just that. It's like all these slogans that they've even come up with during the pandemic, like stand together by standing apart.
Oh yeah.
Right?
It's insane.
It's like psychological abuse because it's stuff that doesn't really make sense. People can't really process it. And then if people try to debate it, they tell you that you're crazy. It's like this gaslighting thing. And it is a form of abuse to get people to comply.
Well,
it's very Orwellian.
It is. And another thing, point to that, Rick, is did you see in the Ottawa Citizen had an article about our military running a psyops on our own citizens during COVID. And, you know, we watched that and I tried to get some legs under that because it is absolutely one of the stories in the last year that I watched. They used the same type of techniques on the Canadian people in our own country that they did in Afghanistan. And, you know, that story came and went, and that should have been at the top. Can you believe it? We have our own military in Canada run a psychological operation on our own people to keep us docile over the COVID pandemic times. And to me, that should be at the top of the heap. But not like another thing too, it reminds me too, the 205,000 votes that didn't get counted in the last election. And Elections Canada comes out and says, oh, we're sorry about that. You know, the big stories, the things that count get shuffled under and put way deep inside the paper. And it's part of propaganda. And it's exactly like they'll tell the people, but they hide it from them and it just loses any legs and disappears. Like, I can't understand how people can't see that psyop, military psyop thing as a huge deal.
That's right on the money, Brian, and that's also been seen across many Commonwealth nations, Australia, UK, United States, and then there's also been things that they've done as well to keep the citizenry and constant reminder that we're under crisis. You can't enter a business without seeing at least 4 or 5 different signs. There's at least 20 minutes of reading material to go through to remind you to be afraid and to continually be in crisis. We only just got our flag out of half-mast a couple of months ago. Like, we are bombarded consistently with messaging to be fear and to be ashamed and to be in constant peril.
Oh yeah, and it's a disgusting thing, and it is actually one of the reasons why, like, I gotta say, I keep on going. You know, I've taken my licks, guys, and you know that it hasn't been easy to be a purple and white politician through the last few years. But I'm going to tell you something. Like, I seen some stuff polling in the 16% area today, and I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I know the loyalty, and I know the united. Every time I'm around people in the PPC, I feel at home, and it's because they do care, and it is like family, and it's growing, and you know, and it's growing for the right reasons, and that's kind of what I'm into. We're seeing this movement that has come in with the truckers. I think we were on to it 2-3 years ago through the PPC. But now
can I get you to just address James Bruce here? He says, I see your Nazi expletive standing on the war memorial my grandfather fought for. Go the home, Nazi. I'm going to say something, okay? You're full of crap, James. That whole story is a piece of BS. Yeah. I saw the footage of the woman that stood on the steps of the memorial, turned and yelled the word freedom. That's what happened. That's all that happened. No evidence that anything else happened. And the veterans who are on site down there went down the other day and removed the fencing that the federal government put up around it because they found that offensive, and they found the BS story that was spun by the media and propagated by the media. They found that offensive as well. So take your stupid BS propaganda BS and go stick it up your you-know-what. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Well, I'll tell you something. My great aunts and uncles were in Belgium when the SS came through. And my grandmother was the only one to make it to Canada. So when I hear this stuff about this SS and all this Nazi garbage, these people that are talking and bringing it all up, they have no idea what it means to be free. They know they're losing. They know that they, in fact, are the controllers. And when they see people out there, you know, a lot of them were involved in different protests and way far left protests to tearing down the country and tearing down all the statues and all that stuff. And a lot of these people out there are losing it right now because they see how big the movement is in the truckers coming to Ottawa and how big it's grown. And this is what we get all the time. And it's gotten so old now that it flies over everybody anyways. I think when you can't win the argument, when you don't have the logic, when you don't have truth on your side, you start trying to degrade the people who are there, and that's the only way they can do it because it's not right. And Rick, you talked about this. You know, I had some people say the same thing to me about the war monument, and that's bull. And I will agree with you 100%. No one did that, and it was all propaganda coming out of the media and at CBC, and they got out on that one early because they were trying to stop the freedom movement to protect their boss, Justin Trudeau, and it didn't work. It backfired, and I know it. James Bruce his comment is something that we see from people who aren't all there, as far as I'm concerned. People who are misinformed and people who choose to not look, and it's this denial, and it's this they like omission in the news. As long as they can feel fuzzy and warm, then they're good with it. As soon as you start showing them some truth about what they might have thought was good, then it's all off. Now they have to be angry at other people. And I'll tell you another thing. When the first day we went up on Parliament Hill, I was with Randy Hillier, Maxime Bernier, and Jim Torma. And we were lined up at the gates to get in, and they tried to stop us at the gates to get up on the hill. And because we had sound equipment, and they turned around, and Max said, he put his hands up like this, and he said, arrest me then right now like Manitoba. And we got up that set of stairs, and we made our way up. And I'll tell you what, Andrew Lawton showed up to interview Maxime Bernier. And you know what? There was two characters there. One had a Batman mask on, and the other had a big mask on with the eyelets, and he was carrying a Confederate flag with a truck on it. And I talked to the director of the party, and I said, because we were looking out for provocateurs, we were organized enough to understand where we were at and what was going to happen. In all the clips you're seeing with the guy in the mask carrying the Confederate flag out of Parliament with his head down, it's because I pointed him out. We confronted him because he kept trying to get behind the cameras in Max's interviews. And this is part of the story that nobody really has talked about or knows. It was the PPC folks that shamed him. If you take a look in the video, you'll notice the purple hats to the right. We called him out. We knew what he was there for. And there's nobody in the PPC or in this movement that have anything to do with Nazis or white supremacy. This is all a line to try to make the people who aren't in Ottawa, sitting at home, watching their propaganda, believe the narrative, and they jump on it. You know what, Mr. Bruce? If you really want to know what's going on in Ottawa, get in your car and drive down there and have a look for yourself. Because it's people like you who cause the grief in this country because you're talking out your rear end because there's none of that going on down.
Exactly.
That's some good
I
points
agree.
in there. And you know what, Mr. Bruce? Those monuments belong to the Canadian people. My ancestors went to Europe to fight tyranny too. And you know what? They definitely wouldn't stand for this. And I've lost my grandfather. I've never known him. And that's because of all the suffering that the war put him through. It basically wrecked him as a human being for the long term. Like, this belongs to all of us. And it was fought with our kids. Like 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
The government
political
misappropriated that monument. They for
big time.
political purposes by putting that fence around it. What they did was wrong, and they tried to spin a political narrative around a manufactured story. That's what they were doing, and it was disgusting. It offended the veterans who are there right now, and that's why the veterans went in. And what they did by taking that fence down is they reclaimed it for the Canadian people and for themselves, because that monument belongs to the veterans and to the Canadian people. And tonight, they continue to stand guard around that monument 24 hours a day, around the clock. They're taking shifts, 2-hour shifts. Another veteran comes and stands guard at that monument. They've been clearing the snow off it and taking care of it, and that is actually what's been going on down there.
Yeah, exactly, Rick. And I saw with my own eyes the respect that people gave it in that monument. You're 100% correct. That monument belongs to the veterans, and I would say, secondly, to us. And you made a good point, Brennan, when you talked about the people who went 18 years old, 19 years old. And this is what really gets me. Those boats hit the beach and that front gate dropped down, and the guys didn't stand in the corner and hide. They ran out that boat for freedom. And I try to say that to people. We have a beach. We got to get out of the boat. We can't sit in that boat when the gate drops, and it's dropped now. We need people to get up on the beach. And the beach right now, as far as I'm concerned, and this is peaceful. I'm not talking about violence here. I'm talking about gathering and holding hands together to make that link and chain to make sure that we're listened to and our freedom isn't lost. They didn't turn their backs in those boats. When the gate dropped, they went out on the beach. And we all know the horrific scenes and what went on there. And those young men mostly, and women, went out there to make sure that we could go to Ottawa and protest. And I think people have lost that focus. It's been so good in Canada for so long. The wealth has been there. People seem to be cozy, but they forgot about the sacrifice that had to happen for us to be here. And, we need to remind people of that, because that's exactly where we're at. We are teetering on it, or hanging by a thin thread right now. We are in an act, the Emergency Act, like you said earlier, Rick. We are on the cusp of losing our freedom in Canada, and that act alone puts the stamp on it. And when we don't stand up at that point, like you say, people like myself who aren't, I don't like Justin Trudeau. I speak out against him. I had a guy today tell me that he donated money with his credit card to the truckers, I think he gave him $100 and his credit card is seized. It's seized. It's no longer in operation. This guy is a friend of mine. So, and I'll tell you, that's happening right now. And when you start to do that and seize people's money, start seizing property because you're against their narrative and for your own. And we come back to the same thing. There hasn't been one single discussion. That man is not, it is tyranny. He has not come out.
That is real tyranny right there. That is tyranny
100%.
right there.
100%. He will not say anything, and now he's trying to turn his media the controlled media on the truckers. If you've noticed over the last few days, we're seeing some more of that language that went away for a bit because they had the hearts and souls of the country. Now you're starting to see it. This is the time to watch for provocateurs. This is the time to watch for them to try to stain a certain group. And this is what I'm waiting to see. And I'm asking the people, have a look at it. Everybody down there is peaceful. I know they're going to try to pull something to make a narrative and excuse for them to use force on the citizens down there. And I hope they don't do it, but I'm really worried about that.
Yeah, you know what, Brian?
This
I've got something up here. You touched on the financial aspect of this. It's scary as all living heck because here's Dean Blundell, some media guy. I've never heard of the jerk before, but he's a left-wing activist. And somehow the Give, Send, Go donor list was hacked, apparently.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people on the left who are political operatives for Trudeau, including this piece of work, got a hold of the list. They were sent the list. So this guy put it up on his Twitter account for people to go and download so that they could find out who all these people are. They made it public. Now, who would be able to do something as sophisticated as that? Likely somebody in government, someone with very sophisticated technical skills to get in there and hack. Okay? So we are at war because Justin Trudeau has declared war on the people, at least on the people, the Canadian citizens that he views as his political opponents. That's why this is tyrannical. And Dean Blundell is a tool being used by Trudeau and the left. So I'm interested in what you think of this because you touched on it, but how dangerous do you think this is? Because to me, this is one more step to this is a step toward losing the entire country.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rick, it's doxing. And what it is that's the way they play. That's why you watch the Trudeau government donate money to the anti-hate network, our money. I shouldn't say donate, gave money. If you go through who they funded, the federal government, you look at the anti-hate network and they post people's names. They do this stuff and, think of the name of it. It sounds like something that should be a good thing, but what you're showing me here, and you know what, I didn't know this, and I think it's disgusting. And what this does is there's a lot of some real doozies out there, I'll say. And when you dox people like this on the internet and you start giving up this information, this stuff should be taken down and off the internet because it's private financial information. But
they should sue this guy.
They should sue him till the cows come home. The problem that I see with that is it seems anymore that we don't even get it out of the courts. And that's the problem. We have idiots like this who put this out there. And, what is wrong with donating for freedom? And you know what? I got to say, everybody's name that's on that list, you should be proud of yourselves for helping out, trying to get in there and save
that one up a little bit.
And save Canada. Yep, can save Canada. Because if you don't, we're going to lose it. So to everybody on the list, thank you. But to the people who are sharing personal information on the internet, putting people's families and houses and everything at risk, their jobs, you watch, there'll be people losing their jobs and everything else over this, just kind of like we're seeing the same thing. This is just like the COVID shots. This side against this side, we're going to go after them, and they're insane. And this type of stuff needs to stop. That's why it's already out on the table. The cards are being played now. The hands are on the table. There's a few cards left to be played, but we got to play the hand. We can't just fold now. The people in the trucks need to stand their ground. I'm gonna say call the maybe it may be soon. Call their bluff. because if they're going to turn this tyrannical government on to the people of Canada, then they're going to have to do it. Because if they're not going to give us back the freedom they stole, then like everybody says, you'd rather die on your feet than on your knees. And you want to know what? That's what you're seeing in Ottawa. And there's so many people. And I brought up something today, and I wanted to tell you guys this about the money stuff, like you were showing there, Rick. You know, it's not warm out right now. There are a whole bunch of Canadians that are out there that are grouped together. You've got people who ride motorcycles. You've got people who are into hunting. You have people there's a lot of people out there that haven't probably been out to the protest yet and haven't joined. And they will join. If you're going to start messing with people's bank accounts, seizing money, telling people the way they should think, having thought police, you are going to spawn more and more people who are against you. Nobody likes a tyrant, and nobody stands up. And you know what? I got to tell you, every single one of them fall. And I think Justin Trudeau has made his bed. And like I say, he can bring it as much as he wants. He's got 16% approval. And when that number is that low, I sense there's going to be a crack and a fracture for him. But we got to hold that line. We can't let up. And you know, there's other ways to help people out. We need to be creative. People need to get out there and use maybe some offshoot ways of helping people who are standing out. There's ways to do it. You don't like to get online and talk about it too much because people are very innovative. And when I was down there, some of the people I seen hauling diesel fuel, and when everybody was told you can't carry a gas can, you seen the folks get out, everybody had one. And you know, that's the type of stuff I think where we're going to win this is when we use the Canadian pride to think of ways to help them. Let's face it, they get into some legal battles, lawyers, all the cost of their businesses and trucks. We need to be there for the people who are standing. We need to help them. We need to join them. We need to make sure that when this goes down, and I'm hoping Trudeau decides to talk and drop the mandates, but if some hardship comes on these people more than even now, I'm asking people to stand behind them and help them out, because sooner or later, as long as we hold the line, we will preserve freedom in Canada. And to me, I think that we all have a responsibility to make sure the people who are on the front line that have stayed and stuck it out need to be compensated. And
Hey, Brendan, just sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem.
We're getting word that a member of Ottawa Municipal Council, who also sits on the Police Services Board, has resigned tonight.
Okay.
Can you just see? I did a quick search. I couldn't find anything. Could you do an additional search on your end? See if we can get some details on that, maybe a news release or some confirmation of that. I don't want to report that as fact. It's just something we've heard. I don't know if it's true, but if it is true, I think it's significant, because yesterday we saw Police Chief Slawley resign. Now, if we're seeing another member of the Police Services Board resign, and, you know, we ran that Police Services Board meeting, and I ripped those guys because of the language, the kind of words they were using, the way they were spinning all of this, the way that they were coming down on the truckers as being these insurrectionists and occupiers and so on. Okay. But if that's true, I think that there might be more cracks forming, even among the municipal hierarchy there, because of what I think the Prime Minister is trying to force police to do tonight. And I honestly believe that the chief probably stepped down because he was not prepared to do Justin Trudeau's dirty work and do it in the way that he wanted it done, doing things like bringing in that LRAD sonic machine to blow people's eardrums out, possibly cause brain damage to people, do damage to people's internal organs using this weapon on people, saying, you know, that Trudeau saying that they want to find a peaceful resolution, and then brings in a high-tech, sophisticated weapon like that. He's doing it, folks, because he doesn't want any blood to show up on cameras. But he sure as hell wants to hurt people, and he's doing it financially, and now it looks like he's prepared to go all the way and do it physically, with physical harm to his own people, to Canadian citizens. It has to not happen. Please, I'm begging you all, don't do this tonight. Don't do it at all. Don't do it tomorrow. Just don't do it. It's wrong. It's immoral. It's unethical. It's just plain wrong. And if you do it, it'll be a stain on policing in this country forever. The relationship between police and the public in this country has already been severely damaged because of all of the crap that's been going on. We can't afford to have that relationship damaged anymore. We need to get back to regular community type policing, community-based policing, where public safety is the paramount concern. We can't allow our police services to be directed by a prime minister. It's wrong, it's illegal, and it's dangerous because it puts the foundations of our democracy in jeopardy. You can't let your police service be politicized like this. Yes, you need to find a peaceful resolution to this, but that starts with dialogue, and it starts at Justin Trudeau's office, and he has been negligent in his duties, and he needs to come out there and speak to these people.
Yeah, he has done nothing, and you're right, Rick, and we're at risk of that, right? Losing our relationship with the people who are supposed to serve and protect. And I agree with you 100%. You know, like I said earlier on the show here, I'm a blue line guy, and I am. And I'm, like I say, I'm begging as well that some of them step back. Now, that stuff you were talking about, the counselor, is good news, right? I was referring
if it's true,
and I was referring to that earlier as well, that I believe that there will be some dominoes that fall out, and it'll just slowly build and build. Now, that being said, where he can go is, as far as politically goes as a prime minister, if it ever comes down to it, I don't think it'll be that quick. I think he will fight until he can't fight anymore. You know, I would not be surprised if he looks outside of Canada, if our police step away. So I would not be surprised if he looks over to the UN for help. And, you know, I said it before with this tyrant, I can envision, can you imagine, you know, we all watched as RP folks went into other countries with the helmets on and peacekeeping missions. And, you know, wouldn't it be something if he was so far into himself that even when our own law enforcement decided to not do what he wanted, that he would go outside the country to bring people here to make sure he takes care of business. And I would not say that that's too far-fetched. This guy is out of control. He is out of hand. He is not listening to the public. Even with his minority election, I think he got, 36% support? Don't quote me on it. I'm close, I think. But that's what I mean. He didn't even have a mandate for anything. He has a minority government. And we're looking at the Canadians, and they're all saying, hey, man, we don't agree with you. The CTV poll that was done today, I think it's CTV or CBC, but I heard it on the radio, 86% of Canadians said they're against him. So how can you move forward with this without talking to people, unless you have somebody else who's pulling your strings, unless you have an outside entity out of the country that is dictating what you're doing? You got to look at what he's doing and all the stuff. It's very simple. Get rid of the vaccine passports, get rid of the digital ID stuff, get back to basics, come on out, have a talk. People will leave. Actually come forward and say, you know what, holding you hostage in your own country, think about what this man has done. We can't even get on an airplane, some people, and fly out of their own country. I'm worried he's going to do interprovincial stuff too. So we need to get on this guy, not let off the line, like you said. And I can't say it enough. I'm hoping that the police officers that are out there, and even the military folks that are listening tonight or whenever they get a chance to watch, they make the decision to get in with the public and the people, because any day that the bloodshed isn't there, any day that freedom is preserved is a good day. And, you know, I'm so, I can't recognize Canada right now for what I do know we are. And we still have that value. We still have it. But I think we're in for some very uncomfortable times, even beyond what we see now.
Well, look what you got going on there, Brian. You saw this yourself when you were down there. There's food everywhere, and they're giving it all away for free.
Oh yeah, and Rick, they talked about stealing the food from the homeless, and I heard that the first week I got back from Ottawa. Somebody said, "Well, can you believe that they stole the food from the homeless?" And you know what happened down there is somebody put out some food for the homeless, but the whole road was full of food tables. So the people that were there protesting, while the homeless guy was down the road eating a steak for free off a barbecue, somebody grabbed the sandwich that was for the homeless people. It's that much of a joke. That's what happened. You couldn't tell what food was for who. You couldn't see it because there was so much food. I'm going to tell you right now, I talked to a few homeless people when I was down there. There was one guy right on Wellington with a pylon on his head, standing up on this flower pot, and he's cheering for freedom, and he's a homeless guy. And he's never had it so good as he has it right now because the food is there. People are welcoming anybody in. And this is what I mean. They tried to use that someone stole from the homeless. And I heard it multiple times. I'm just like, man, they'll stop at nothing to try to stain people. But we have a dangerous government. That's where we're at right now. And it is reality. And sometimes when I'm ready to go to bed or I get up in the morning to drive to work. I get in the car and I try to pinch myself a bit and go, what the hell is going on here? How are we at this point? And it's because of silence. It is because we got comfortable. Canadians took their freedom for granted. As these people marched and stomped us, nobody stood up. And the ones that did got bullied by the rest. And this is what's happened in Canada. And we need to stand it up. We need to fix it. Because if we don't do and continue to do it or give in to the tyrant, that's it, folks. The show's over. Because we will never get back to what we had even 4 years ago. We won't get there. Because freedom, once it's taken, and this is a problem with this Emergency Act as well, that we watch the masks come in. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't travel. You're not allowed. You don't have a needle. You didn't get it. You can't go to church. Not allowed in the restaurant. Now we have the ultimate no and the ultimate control with this act, the Emergency Act. And we can't even get the mask mandates taken away. What are we looking at with this Emergency Act?
Yeah, and exactly. How long is this going to last? I'm worried it could go on for a very long time. All he has to do is just keep saying, oh, no, there are still more insurrectionists out there. There's still lots of white supremacists, fascists, Nazis. We still got to root them all out. This isn't over. They could come back at any time. We have to keep this. You watch. That's what he'll do. And Ivan Freely says a nationwide general strike. And today I did see at one of the news conferences held by some of the truckers that they are talking about a nationwide general strike starting on the 21st. Yeah. Now, I'll see if I can find that video at some point during tonight's broadcast, but I believe they're talking about that starting on the 21st, and I don't have all the details, but they definitely did call for it. And what do you think of that, Brian?
Well, I heard it myself today, Rick, and the truckers, I heard some of them say, pull your rigs off the road on this certain date and just leave it at that. And, to be quite honest with you, a very drastic measure, very scary measure. The more he makes us do things as the public to preserve our freedom, the bigger the bruise gets on the country. And this is it's a double-edged sword for me, because the punishment, and you always hear this, things need to get worse before they get better. And unfortunately, looking at the situation we're in with this absolute imbecile who's at the wheel, who will not give an inch, will not even talk. If that's what it's going to take, then I'm going to say, if the Canadian public need to take that drastic of a measure to get rid of tyranny, I will support it, because I think that is what's going to have to happen. I'm not saying I want it. I'm not saying that it's a good idea. I'm saying it may be a necessity to preserve freedom. Like Justin Trudeau says, Rick, nothing is off the table. Like Doug Ford says, nothing is off the table. That's what they do, right? They put those idle threats out. In most cases, that what they're going to do. But, there should be some things off the table. And I heard them say that. It's just disgusting to me. Nothing's off the table, or, we're going to use every tool we have at our disposal. Oh, really? But you're right. But they're not wrong. If everybody said, guess what? Let's spend some family time together for 5 or 6 days. Shut her down. No more paying. Like, you could get, it could come down to people who just clear their bank accounts and don't pay any bills. That's another thing that could happen. And that's what we don't want to see. Those solutions, I don't want to see them. Now, I'm not saying that if we are losing our freedom, that I wouldn't support them. I'm saying they will bruise the country more and more. They will put the country in a very vulnerable position to survive as Canada. So we're looking at a guy who's willing to let our country get torn to smithereens, guys, instead of getting rid of some mandates. I don't.
And what's your view on this?
Is there anything you guys want to finish up on that point? And I did find some interesting stuff out, but I don't know if it's worthy of talking about. So finish that point, and then I'll bring up what I found.
Well, I can postpone what I was going to say. So, if you've got something of importance, let's hear it.
Okay, so I can't find anything across multiple search engines that there's been any Ottawa council members that have been have resigned, but I did find out. So remember the lady who was in the police board services meeting yesterday saying, I wish I was downtown on the weekend and I would have popped those bouncy
Diane
castles.
Deans.
Yes.
So Diane Deans, and there's been a bit of a problem here. So as per CTV, it does state Councillor Diane Deans went to the board to fire previous police chief Peter Slowly, sources said. After that, she and the board tried to hire a new interim chief from Southern Ontario without a competition. The board moved to hire former Waterloo Police Chief Matthew Torrigan, sources said. Torrigan is a fellow of the Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto. That's not important. So Mayor Jim Watson offered Deans the chance to resign when he learned of the plan, but she refused, sources said. As a result, Watson is leading an effort to oust her from the board. So this is whispering and...
Sorry, what? So who's getting ousted? Or
I'll read that again. Mayor Jim Watson offered Deans the chance to resign when he learned of the plan to hire somebody without contest, and she refused. Sources said as a result, Mayor Watson, is leading an effort to oust her from the board. So it's all whispers and nothing conclusive. But
that doesn't jive with what my theory was. I wish my theory was more in line with what was going on, but
sounds like there's some crooked things, and there's a lot of people not trusting this Diane Deans, who's the chair of the police board.
Yeah, she wants to hammer
Ottawa.
these truckers, and she wants some guy to come who's willing to put the hammer down on them and crush them.
Yeah, and in Waterloo's where I got my summons for speaking publicly with Bernier. And you know what? That's like one of you can feel it in Waterloo. They're not for freedom at all. They're so entrenched, deep red liberals down there that they're woke as woke can be. Down in Waterloo, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of people in their government. That's where the councillor gave us all the finger. Remember, she stood up, gave us the finger. Then we get charged for being at protest. She gave us the finger down there. She was protesting the protest, but she didn't get charged. And it was just a big pile of it. In Waterloo, I like the people. I like the area. It's a beautiful area. But it seems the politics in Waterloo are absolutely, and I'm seeing the word Marxism come up on the screen there. That rings a bell for me there. It doesn't feel very welcoming for freedom. It's get in line, agree with us, or you're nothing. And that's what you see up there as far as I'm concerned.
This begs the question. So if it's only a rumor, but if any of what CTV is reporting there is true, then that in and of itself is corruption. And what's her connection to this Waterloo guy? if that's the case, where they're just
well, it may not be
give him
corruption.
a job.
It may just be improper, not following procedures properly, which has other consequences. I don't know, but
if she knows this guy and owes him a favor, then that's corruption.
Yeah. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes with that one, right? And obviously, now see, when you talk about that, you see another fracture. So when you start seeing the counselors, like if somebody drops out, or you start seeing the counselors and the mayor at each other and at odds, and that's what the holdout is about. That's why we got to continue. That's why we don't let up, because that's where they lose, because they always get their own way. They've always been able to say, no, you're done, you're out. But there's a whole bunch of people that are banded together in the infighting. I believe that they're counting on infighting in the trucker movement. And I think that they've been leaving them alone because they want the truckers somebody to try to take a top dog spot or somebody. But the best part about it is we've watched a few leaders come forward, but nobody's laying the stake in the ground that they're the leader. And what it's done is there's been a few different groups out there on the ground. What it's done is it hasn't given them the ability to isolate and manipulate on a small group of people, because everybody down there is in on it together, which is quite awesome as far as I'm concerned. You have leaders who stand up to speak, but I don't think they're willing to be manipulated. And when you can't get down and pinpoint one faction in the group to take the reins and be able to dictate to everybody else, you can't move them. And I think that's happened in Ottawa. There are people who stepped up, but not like they're used to, like that rank and order. And that's what they have. And I think if we hold out long enough, they will fracture before the freedom fighters do.
Yeah, and speaking of the truckers and different groups, this was one of the statements made today. We played one on the Jordan Peterson show.
Before you do that, there's a further development. So this is really kind of hidden in this article here, and no wonder why you can't find it when you Google it. But it said City Council citizen appointee Sandy Smallwood confirmed to CTV News Ottawa that he has resigned as a member of holy crap, where was it? Of the Police Services Board.
Okay.
So
I don't remember what he was saying in that meeting.
No, neither do I.
So I'm not. I don't know what his political slant is one way or the other. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, let's play this. Can we play this clip from the truckers now, Brendan, or is there more?
No, that was it. So he did resign. No, that was the thing. He did do that.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that maybe if we can figure out a little bit more about that, folks. But that's a very interesting development. So anyway, but yeah, here's what's her name again? Tamara?
Yeah. Litch.
Yeah, Litch. And I'm not sure who this other gentleman is, but yeah, truckers, another statement. Let's hear what they have to say.
Give it a second, see if anybody comes in. Hi, everybody. I hope we're live. I usually do this on my phone. Okay. I usually do this on my phone, so we're trying to get this set up on my laptop, and yeah, that's kind of a first for me. So I hope you're doing all right. We are still here in Ottawa. I'm with Chad. We wanted to give you a bit of an update on our finances. I know there's lots of questions, and just wanted to let you know we haven't skipped the country with all your money. I know there's a lot of rumors going around, and we're just here finally that we have a few minutes that we can send you an update on what's happening. This is my good friend Chad. He has been working his butt off, trying to look after all these finances that you have generously donated.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
He's a hero. So Chad, tell us what's going on.
Hi, everybody. Hi, world. First of all, to the donors out there, thank you so much for your generosity in supporting the truckers and the protesters that are protesting, unthinkable mandates, unthinkable passport systems, and that never should have been in place in the first place. And the truckers are heroes, and we thank them for leading the way. There's things that we probably should say that are, we should address things that are not true, because there's been rumors and people are saying things that don't make sense. There's actually a really good spirit out there today. But just to even boost people's spirits even more and just give people truth, which will encourage everybody. So the truth about the Give, Send, Go money is it's all still there. Okay, so like the government of Canada does not have their hands on the funds. So that's I'm going to debunk that one first. Is that the government of Canada does not have their hands on the money. They do not control the money. So hopefully that puts everybody's hearts at ease. And so that's that. The second thing is that we intentionally we're not, bringing this into Canada in any weird way. Like, we're not smuggling money or doing anything strange. There's no conspiracy theories or anything like that. We just aren't able to use the money right now because of this really, really weird court order. And this court order by the government of Ontario, for those of you who don't know what provinces are, they're like, instead of states, we have provinces, and Ontario is a province in Canada. And they did a very strange court order, which essentially states that the monies raised are like similar to like an illegal way to raise money, like selling drugs or human trafficking or something stupid like that. And this is like money to support truckers who have lost their jobs and who are protesting these horrible mandates that have made them lose their jobs and lose their freedoms. These are grandmas and grandpas, brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, students donating money to go to truckers to help support them. So for the government of Ontario to say that these funds are coming illegally is just really strange. Our lawyers are pretty confident that they can beat that because it's such a strange accusation. Mm-hmm. However, if somebody uses the money or tries to bring it across the border or whatever, they might say that we're using the money, and whoever uses the money could go to jail.
That would be bad.
Yeah. So once we start every single penny is intact. No money has been used, and all dollars are intact and preserved right now. So I just wanted to tell you that just because as I walk the streets and talk to the truckers here, they don't know. Same with the donors. Like, I'll get phone calls from donors asking me what's going on with the money and things like that. And I want you all to be assured that the wrong people don't have your money and the right people do. Mm-hmm. So just so you know. Mm-hmm. And we have every intention of using the donations for their intended purpose, which is to support the truckers, support the people that came here and started this worldwide awakening. And that's the update I've got for everybody. How about you, Tamara? Anything else you would want to expand on?
I just wanted to let them know that the legal team that we have here is absolutely fantastic. They are working on avenues also to deal with the TD Bank and to deal with the whole situation, actually. So as you can imagine, it's been a pretty busy day for them. So I actually was going to try and have a couple of them come on here with us, but they're working on some big things, and so we're just going to let them do their job. Let's see if we got ever.
You bet. So I see some people are saying, so how can we support the truckers? Should we donate to Give, Send, Go or directly to the truckers? If you have the ability to donate directly to the truckers, somehow, then that's probably, hey, that more power to you. We definitely would steer you that way. Lots of people are giving them direct support. And we're thinking of ways, that maybe we can help facilitate that or connect you with a trucker or something like that. We're just brainstorming different ways to do that. Of course, the government wants to say that everything is illegal, but we've been we keep being advised that we have a right to protest. We have a right to our charter rights to peaceful assembly, to voice our opinions, to essentially these are democratic rights. These are charter rights and freedoms that we have. And in no way is anybody talking about, I watched a news clip today where reporters were asking some government officials if they considered the protest insurrection. I think a lot of our victories are coming from the fact that they keep proving us right over and over. It's like when you call a bully, and they say, if you ever call me a bully again, I'm going to punch you in the face. They keep proving us right, that they are bullies. To call a protest treason or insurrection and all that weird stuff, they keep escalating it, and hopefully, I do think the world sees that. I think it's really quite apparent. But going back to the generous donations, everything's intact, and it's going to be obviously used with the intentions of the donors, which is to support the truckers.
Absolutely. That was always our intention right from the start, and it's really unfortunate what is happening here. I think you can all agree right from the start, from my very first video, I told you guys I would be open and transparent, and that's what we've endeavored to do. We came here to have a peaceful protest to try to end these mandates. Some of the stories, I've talked about this before, still hope and pride are the biggest words that I hear every single day. And the unity that we have seen, we still have a long way to go, but as I've said before, in a sense, we've already won. We have people here that have come from all across the country, supporting our truckers and standing together in unity, right? All walks of life, all races, all cultures, all religions, from everywhere. And I'm really sorry that I haven't been able to get on and give you an update sooner. It's just, we're so busy. You can tell by my face.
So let's just pull down out of this. And what do you think of all that, guys?
Tom?
I think that they've used the money issues to try to divide as well. And I'd like to just say that people need to relax. People who have donated money to these folks, we haven't really seen any action with it because they keep seizing and doing all this stuff. But it's probably another tactic to try to divide and break and form cracks in what's going on. So, I don't listen to a lot of the crap, I'll call it, out there. I'm going to assume and stick to the fact that they're going to use it for the right reasons. And I don't see the people who are running these things as people who are going to cut and run. And so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And the reason I say that is because I don't have any space in my head for some sort of a negative spin on somebody who's trying to do something good for the truckers. And unless someone can show me different and act like that they're spending it on themselves or whatever, then I think differently. But until I see proof of that, I think the fact that the government is seizing the accounts is proof to me that they're not up to no good. I think if they were up to no good, the money would already been dwindled out. They would have been pulling it in small increments. They wouldn't have let it build so big if that was their intention. I think they would have been grabbing some. I know they might have took a little bit out at the start. That might be up for questions to ask, but as far as I'm concerned, we can't get sucked into that about your $25 or $100 donation. Yes, it's a lot of money, but collectively it's been donated. So people need to just, I think, roll with the punches and not look at negativity or start second guessing everything. And I say that because they're raising the money, leave them alone. If something goes wrong with it down the road, that's fine. But I haven't seen anybody doing anything wrong. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, and it's like they're throwing the wrong criticism at the wrong thing anyway. because we've seen plenty of charitable organizations take their money and squander it, like United Way, for example. They use a substantial amount of their donations to go towards administrative costs and to pay their CEO. And then they're also saying, oh, well, Russia is funding it and it's Russia doing this and that. Like, we have to remember that Communist Party members have donated significant amounts of money to the Pierre Trudeau Foundation. It's like, rules for me and not for thee. And you know what? If it's not our political cause that you're fighting for, then you're a white supremacist Nazi, and you should be doomed for all eternity.
Yeah, and you're right, Brennan. That's what they do. And you're 100% correct. And it's getting so old. You know, if you don't agree with what their narrative is, they come after you. And it is a bully tactic. And the people, like I said, people who made donations to this cause, the government has got them on record. So they have a list, like similar to the one Rick showed earlier on the screen. So it's everywhere, right? They're in your rooms. They admitted to tracking how many people in Canada over the last 6 or 7 months with the app and all this stuff. It's like we have a paranoid group that is in the House of Commons right now. They do not have any respect for the citizens. They're paranoid of losing power. And when you have that type of a paranoia, you have danger. You have people who knee-jerk, people who don't think, people who don't listen to different opinions. And let's face it, if you don't listen to someone else's opinion when you're in government and it's your way or the highway, that's not what it's supposed to be about. You know, you can't have all of it your way. Not everyone in the country is a liberal. Not everyone in the country voted PPC. Not everybody in the country is an NDP or a conservative. So you have to have a mindset when you're in there that you've got to adapt to the way the country is in the landscape. But this guy is absolutely out of his mind. And I can't even see any of the Liberal Party in the guy anymore, because at least there was some sort of an ability to communicate. You'll see the Liberals, they've always been good at getting their narrative out to the public. They've been out there and they'll do it. They'll run commercials. They do it. Guess what, guys? There's nothing. There's none of that stuff right now because of him
being the party of compassion, which they have entirely lacked for at least over a year now.
Oh, yeah. They're not out there, right? They're about power. And it's sick. They're drunk with it from COVID. And that's where we're at. And like I say, we need to hold the line. We will hold out and they will lose. The government will come to their senses. They'll have no choice because Canadians aren't going to put up with it. And that's where I think we need to go. I think we need to continue to support the people who stand up. I think we need to use our ability to vote. We need to use our brains. We need to think things through logically. We need to not be so quick to jump on people who are standing up to try to keep the country and not lose it to these tyrants. And we need to show some compassion to people who are fighting for freedom and not be so critical of them. You know, nothing worse. You put your neck out there and everybody's trying to run you down. Well, it's hard to keep going that way, right? So I think we need to start embracing each other a little bit more. And I'm going to tell you one thing. If you can get 51% on the same side as your neighbor, you've got it. You've got to win. And that's, I think, where we need to be. If you can agree on almost half of what you think, I think you have some freedom fighters standing beside you that can be willing to fight. And that's the thing. Not everybody agrees. Not everybody thinks the same way. But in order to be able to have that privilege to have differing opinions, we need to fight to preserve that field that we play on in our democracy. And I think for me to turn my back on someone who doesn't have the same politics as me, that's willing to fight for freedom, is not an option for us right now in this country. No. So when we have opinions that are different, but we can agree on freedom needs to be preserved, we need to push that over to the side. And just like it says behind me, unite for freedom, that's what we need to do. We need to stand up for the core base values and push that other garbage out and do it. I can see the one side of the spectrum doing it. The other side of the spectrum will come eventually. So we need to be prepared for that and open up our arms and make sure. Doesn't mean we have to agree with them, but if people want to fight to preserve the country and keep Canada where it is, we can't make enemies of everybody. Together, we need to unite. We need to make sure we get it on a stable ground again, get the country back where it needs to be. And then, we can go and argue our politics. But right now, we have things that are above that are going on in the country. So I don't find, I'm not a liberal guy. I don't like the NDP. But I'll tell you what, if somebody comes over and says to me, Brian, I don't want to lose our freedom, I'll never, ever come and support you. But I'll stand by you so we can get this damn place back where we can have a good political fight. You know what? I'll do it. I'll lock arms with that person because we need to do it. Because you know what? Everybody's in this great country and we're together on it. And we need to fight, and we need to put the differences aside to make sure we get that other day to fight. And I know it sounds crazy, and you can think of the old Looney Tune commercials with the chick or the hound or the coyote going in and swiping their card, and it's like it's their job. But you know what? When they get in there at the end of the day, they're going to go after one thing. And I think that we need to unite for that one thing right now and let the marbles go where they may fall later on. But I think we need to get out there and work together and put some of our stuff beside us until we get this guy out of there, because he's got us all in danger. I don't care what color your yard sign is, orange, green, red, or blue, or purple. This guy is threatening us all. So I think we need to get there. You know what, guys? I'm going to get rolling. Oh, and I see, is that Carla down there?
It is. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Carla, how are you? Thank you so much for going up there. I was happy to hear tonight they were going to have you on. I've been watching, and you know what? Thank God that you got your dog, got Betty back. And the players that were out there was crazy. I felt so terrible for you. And I know how hard you've been fighting, and you've been away from home, and you've been up there running the videos. And to have that happen, it was heart-wrenching for me. But thank you so much. I got to say to the guy upstairs, because I was so happy to see it. But guys, I'm going to get running. You got, looks like you got a good person on here to fill in the gap for me. So I'm going to roll. And thanks for having me on. And anytime you want to have me back on, I'll join in. And I think you guys are doing a good service here. And I'll be happy to come back on anytime. And if you want any inside information from me, if I have anything to give, send me a message and we'll see what we can get so you can spread it around to make sure we keep the fight on our side and the winning side on our side.
Thank you, Brian, very much. It's our honor and privilege to have you on.
And just like I said, Rick, that we're all on this together. We're all on the same team. And I am going to say it one more time, that the time for the small talk about politics and the division, it has to go away. We need to unite. We need to unite under the freedom umbrella. As Maxime Bernier says, we need to do that. And it'll give us another time to fight with each other. But right now, we need to get this country back. So anyways, I'm going to check out. Thank you, guys. Carla, we'll talk.
All right, Brian.
Stay tuned. There's going to be some good, surprising information coming on the provincial political spectrum. That's all I can say right now. But stay tuned and you'll see. And anyways, I'm going to sign out. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Carla, have a good night.
You too, Brian.
Brian. It's been a pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Stay safe. Keep fighting for freedom.
Too. Oh, yeah, I will.
Take care. And Carla, how are you?
Hello. I'm great today. It's been kind of an active day in Ottawa.
Yeah. So what's the mood like down there tonight?
You know, it's that same mood. You know, I feel like I'm so repetitive, but it is that same, that freedom mood. Everybody's feeling free. Everyone's got their either feeling very patriotic, that very united, lots of love, lots of hugs, smiles. It's infectious.
Well, I'm very worried about that whole LRAD long-range acoustic device, that sonic cannon that they're talking about. If that's all true, and I believe that it probably is, that's very concerning to me, because they could actually hurt people with that. And, to me, what that seems like is it's a way for the government to get violent without any blood being shed, so that on camera for the media, the optics don't look so bad, and but they achieve their goal, and at the same time they hurt their political enemies. I really don't like it. It's a very concerning, and I mean, I went so far tonight as to actually appeal to the Prime Minister himself and to the Police Services Board, the interim chief, to just please don't use that device.
So was that in mainstream media? I only heard about that while I was on the street.
No, this is, I keep hearing about it from many sources. Now, I think it's quite credible, and I think people need to know about it, even if it isn't true, because like whether there's confirmation from police, say, or not, that they've got this device, I think the public needs to know, because that thing can hurt people. And if the cops go down there and they don't tell people they're bringing it, and they point that at someone, they can blow out their eardrums. They could do brain damage depending on how intense the sound signal is. They could do damage even to their internal organs. It vibrates your eyeballs and makes you dizzy. It can cause nausea, and it can cause long-term damage. It can you can end up with lifelong tinnitus, and all kinds of other health issues after being exposed to it. This is a scientific, follow the science. It's a scientific fact, right? That's what it can do. It's a very high-tech weapon, and depending on which one they have, how intense it is, how they use it, how close they get to people with it, and these are all, it's just freaking wrong to use it against human beings. That's just all there is to it.
So it's a weapon of war for sure.
Yep.
And just to clarify how it works, because this is brand new to me, I haven't had time to research even what it is. So my thoughts this afternoon were they probably wouldn't do it while Parliament were in, because I thought it would kind of go over the area. But you're saying, the way you're talking, it's sounding to me like it's more targeted.
It's like a laser beam, right? So the cops can walk behind it and not be affected by it. But it's a focused beam of sound, high intensity sonic waves. All right. And it vibrates like crazy. And it's a high pitched, like this. Okay. Sorry. I'll try and cue up that video again. It's just, the first time they used it was at a G20 summit for crowd control. And it's brutal. Like if they hit you with that, you could end up puking, and like I say, it can blow out your eardrums. Wow. You can have permanent hearing damage from it.
Wow.
And maybe not immediately, but then later in life, you can develop long-term hearing loss. And they've had lawsuits over it. And we ran a video from a guy who explains the technology a little bit. I ran a portion of a video, and you can find more information about this online. It is a very controversial tool, weapon. It's a weapon. All right.
And it is a weapon of warfare, because the Royal Navy out of England, they had used that in the Middle East as a deterrent to keep terrorist organizations away from oil wells and stuff like that when they were occupying the Middle East. So this is something that is a weapon of war, just like you said, and it is something that can cause a lot of issues. And like you'll see for yourself with the video Rick pulls up.
Wow. So my question is, do police naturally use this, or is this normally something used by the military?
Both.
Okay.
There are many different kinds of devices that are being that are marketed, sold by companies to police services, military, for all kinds of different applications. And, you know, some of them are mounted on ships. Other ones are even handheld devices. They have ones that are mounted on vehicles. And apparently whatever they flew something in from Trenton, apparently, to the airport in Ottawa. And this LRAD is part of the plan, apparently. That's what we're hearing. Now, I'm not saying for sure it's down there. This is just what's being reported on the street. As a result, we've seen people handing out earplugs, which I'm not sure will even be effective. But sound technology has really progressed. I know just from my work as an automotive journalist, in your vehicle today, especially Chevrolet products, just a lot of different higher end cars too, they have noise canceling technology, right? Using certain frequencies to make the car seem like it's quieter through your stereo system. It sends out canceling waves. If you know anything about audio production, you can have phasing, it's called, right? So that it picks up the same frequencies and you can phase sounds out. Well, this does the opposite sort of thing. It's high intensity, high frequency sonic waves, and it'll vibrate your skull. It'll vibrate your eyeballs. It's brutal. It's brutal. It's a weapon.
Well, they didn't use it today, thankfully.
Yeah. And so, how
They use other threats. So we did read to everybody your love letter that you got from the Ottawa Police today.
Right. Now, I question that letter. Like, if you'll notice, there's no date, there's no signature, there is a stamp. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, it was legitimate that the officers that were handing it out, they looked to be like bylaw officers.
Liaison officers.
Yeah, they were liaison. Is that not similar to like a bylaw officer?
Yeah, I think they're just auxiliary or whatever it is. I don't think they're
not cops on the ground.
That's right. No. They're not full up constables.
Yeah. So I mean, it was legitimate ones. First of all, they were handing them out knocking on the truckers' doors of their trucks, handing them to the truckers, and then later. At that time, I did go up to them and asked for one because I wanted to see what it was. But then later they approached me and wanted to hand me one. I said, no, thank you. I already have one. But they did hand them out actually to the demonstrators as well.
Yeah, here's that footage of the LRAD again.
Okay.
This was used at a G20 summit in the U.S. for the very first time, not very many years ago. But this is how they use it. Back in 2009 for the first time ever used.
Go back to Kentucky!
So, those people are standing there and they might even think that, it's not too bad, I can stay here, right? Mm-hmm. But if that thing is pointed right at them or even close to them, and depending on how close they get to it, from what I understand and the small amount of research I did today, it can blow your eardrums out or it can cause later on long-term hearing damage. And Brendan did find a court case that was settled where damages were awarded to protesters because of that happening to them.
So Justin Trudeau, he's declared war on us then.
100%. That's what I said yesterday. He has declared war on the truckers and more accurately on his political opponents, in my opinion.
Yes.
And he said, and they keep saying we want a peaceful resolution to this. Does that look like it's peaceful to you?
The only thing I'm seeing peaceful about this are the actual demonstrators and protesters and the truckers.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's the peaceful.
I just had a thought about the LRAD machine. They thought the horns were bad. Wait till they get a load of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, horns. Nothing compared to that, right? And the cops they didn't want horns honking, so the cops had to just do them one better, right? They got jealous of those horns and they brought down their LRAD, the sonic boom machine. Now we got some sound. Now we'll blow you out. Yeah, what about the local residents? They want to listen to that?
What about the local residents getting caught up in the mix of that?
Exactly. They don't even know who they're going to be hitting, right? It's just people.
Exactly.
I mean, they're telling
Actually,
everybody to get the hell out of there, but what about people who work there, live there? You know, even in the middle of the night, you're out walking your dog because, you know, you live in an apartment down there someplace and you're just out on the street and they hammer you with sonic boom machine and they blow your dog's eardrums out. Like, what the hell?
Wow. So, okay. So I was watching that video and they're using some kind of a truck or some, you know, what was that vehicle? Just some kind of a police vehicle.
A police armored vehicle.
Okay. So they had that armored vehicle and I noticed there were police behind it because you said if you're behind the sound, you don't receive the frequency. So I think for the people who are in Ottawa, what we need to be watching for is an absence of police officers. Right? Because if we're out there and we're looking around and we're not seeing police officers, because they certainly aren't going to want to hit their fellow officers, nor will they want to hit the parliamentary police, right? The parliament police.
Yeah.
So when we see those guys gone, we know that the police officers, I'm assuming, would need to get behind wherever the sound is.
Again, I'm not trying to advise on strategy to anybody for anything.
I'm just thinking for me.
Right? That's not my purpose here. But if I see something that's going to be coming down that's going to hurt people, like if I knew the cops were going to go down there to shoot people, or even the other way around, if I knew there were guys in the trucker convoy that were going to hurt cops, I would tell.
Absolutely.
Because we don't want anybody hurt. We don't want any violence, period. And because I just don't want anybody to get hurt.
No.
So if I know, or if I'm told with a high level of confidence that there's a weapon coming down there that could permanently damage someone's health for life, I think I'm obligated to let people know so that they're at least warned and can protect themselves and make them aware. And then they can make the choice after that what they want to do. If they want to stay or if they want to go or if they want to put on hearing protection or do whatever they choose to do. But I think people need to know. More than that, if the police are going to unleash this weapon, they should tell the public in advance that they're bringing this thing down there. I think that's the moral thing to do. But even more than that, I don't think there's any moral reason that they can come up with to justify the use of this weapon against their own Canadian citizens. This isn't much different than, it's a weapon. And it can do serious physical harm to people. And if that's what they're thinking of doing, they need to just stop.
Well, I mean, it's in my opinion that Justin Trudeau has absolutely declared war on his citizens if he is bringing weapons in, because that is 100% that's a weapon. It's meant to cause injury. That's a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying it's safe. The literature says it's safe. But in the video that we ran from the guy explaining the technology, he has manuals for it that they give to police services and military. And it says right in there, they promote it as safe on the first page, but then after that, every page talks about how they shouldn't get near it, they shouldn't get in front of it, because if they do, it'll do all this damage to you as the operator, right? Don't shoot it at your own officers because it can, do all these terrible things to them.
But yet it's safe to use on.
I think the point is it's safe for the officers who are behind it. It's just not safe for the people you're shooting with it.
Wow.
Bingo.
And I'm sitting here tonight, Carla, and I'm thinking, what the hell has happened to our country? Where has Justin Trudeau taken us?
He's just on a whole other plane. I do not understand how he can't. He has to be seeing the live streaming. We know that they spy on people. We know that thousands of people are streaming this. He's seeing what's really happening. He knows the truth. Why is he on this other plane? And how is he convincing himself that we're of a threat to him?
There's something wrong in here because of something that's going in here, or maybe there's something missing here. I still have to believe that somewhere there's something in here, some compassion in that man or that boy or whatever he is. He seems to lack maturity to me and wisdom, but I'm appealing to him and everyone involved. Please don't do this.
Yeah.
Please.
And the whole tone, you guys have seen the video, many have seen it. Probably most of the people who've been watching here have seen the live streams. Well, I know they have because my live streams are coming out. That is not the intention. The intention of these protesters is not violence. It is just simply peaceful protesting with the intention to hopefully speak to the Prime Minister.
Yeah. Now, I do just want to mention again that you're down there again tonight. You've returned to Ottawa. You've been shooting live video. You've been doing interviews on the scene, and that's expensive. And we are asking people tonight, if you can, consider donating to freedomreporters.com. It will help us offset the costs of, to some degree, of doing these broadcasts and helping Carla with her expenses as she remains in Ottawa tonight. And she's been down there pretty consistently for the past 3 weeks, and all these out-of-pocket expenses, it's expensive. So if you can, there is a link to the donation page in the YouTube description and on the Facebook descriptions, or you can just simply type in freedomreporters.com and it will take you right there. And to those who have already donated, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We are trying to bring you an unedited, unfiltered, uncensored perspective on this to balance out the propaganda, honestly, that you're getting from the mainstream media. And that's why I'm back out of semi-retirement after leaving CTV after more than 25 years, because my former employer is engaging today in propaganda. And I say that with some authority. And what we are doing here is we are trying to contribute to this movement toward freedom, not by being part of the Freedom Trucker convoy protest itself, but by doing the work of journalists the way that we think it needs to be done today in order to get some truth out there to the public. Because there's an information war going on. I guess if you want to say, if you want to characterize it, we're in a way at war with the other media tonight. We're at war with the legacy media. And I'm on the other side because I'm old school journalism. That's where I come from. And what I see, CTV, Global, CBC, Toronto Star, the big newspaper chains, even the newswire services largely, something's got to be done. And that's what we're here for tonight. That's why we've been here. And that's why Carla's in Ottawa tonight. Sorry to interrupt you. What were your thoughts?
I don't even remember. I'm just blown away that we're at this place with Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
That he wants to actually harm his own citizens.
And now begs the questions, lady and gentlemen, how much time remains? We've been handed out the warning letter by the Ottawa Police. The Children's Aid Society in Ottawa set out a release today urging parents at the demonstration in Ottawa to make the necessary alternate care arrangements should they become unable to care for their children following potential police action. We also had Public Safety Minister and what was this clown's name again? Marco Mendocino coming out and making inflammatory statements. How much more time do we think before the police are going to?
I think it could be any minute. It could happen tonight. I mean, if you saw my lives, there was quite a crowd during the daytime and into the evening. But as I was leaving just now, it was dwindling. The organizers were calling out for more people to come. Because it's about the safety in numbers, right? The police are less likely to do anything if they've got more people than they can handle. So there are more people on the way. Like I said the other night, I really believe they're going to come as a thief in the night. It's their best hope to be able to do this kind of in their seamless fashion that they, without many casualties. And I don't mean physical casualties. I mean, without scarring themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they go in there and do this with children, it's going to be bad.
Well, it sounds like that's what's going to be the plan here, based off of the Children's Aid Society statement so far. If that does happen, it'll be a bloody mess. And there already has been casualties because of what they're invoking with the Emergencies Act. There's going to be financial casualties. There's going to be people losing their licenses, and and things of that nature. I mean, there's people who have killed people drinking and driving, and they still have their license, but the government's going to revoke your driver's license based off of this. That is criminal.
Yeah. For peacefully protesting and standing up for your rights, which is not illegal in the country of Canada.
I did have that Mendocino press conference lined up, Rick, if you wanted me to play it.
Sure. Let's take a listen and a look.
A look-see listen.
We do want to present as many sides of the story as we can, not just both sides, but all sides, so people get a full perspective. Ready for me to bring it up?
Yep. Let me know when you're ready.
All set.
All right.
Merci, David.
Thank you, David.
I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm joining from the traditional territories of the Algonquin people. Thank you for joining us for today's update on the federal government's ongoing response to the illegal blockade. These illegal blockades pose a national security threat to our borders, our economy, and to the health and safety of all Canadians. To begin, I am pleased to report that 3 of the most important border crossings in Canada are now open to trade and travel. In Alberta, the Coutts border crossing reopened yesterday after the successful enforcement operation by the RCMP. In British Columbia, the Pacific Highway border crossing south of Surrey has also reopened after enforcement action, including 12 arrests. And in Windsor, the Ambassador Bridge, where roughly a quarter of Canada's daily commercial trade was blocked for almost a week, is now reopened. And in Manitoba, I can inform that the RCMP and CBSA are hoping to reopen the Emerson border crossing later today. This means that Alberta beef, BC salmon, and Manitoba pork can once again be exported to markets across North America. The successful work that is being done in Windsor by the police service there in conjunction with the RCMP and OPP to end the illegal blockade has resulted in some 50 arrests and 90 charges. This means that families in Windsor, Oakville, Ingersoll, Alliston, and so many other communities know that they will be able to go back to work in the morning and earn a paycheck. Trade is now flowing in both directions, and I'm pleased that factories across southern Ontario have resumed production. And as we know, the RCMP made 13 arrests earlier this week at the Coutts border crossing and seized a significant number of lethal firearms, a large supply of ammunition, body armor, high-capacity magazines, and a machete. And yesterday, 4 men were charged by the RCMP with a conspiracy to murder officers. As the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP noted, and I quote, Monday's weapons seizure and subsequent arrests speak to the serious criminal activities taking place during the protest and illegal blockades. The dangerous criminal activity occurring away from the TV cameras and social media posts was real and organized. It could have been deadly for citizens, protesters, and officers. We need to be clear-eyed about the seriousness of these incidents. Indeed, several of the individuals at Coutts have strong ties to a far-right extreme organization with leaders who are in Ottawa. We're talking about a group that is organized, agile, knowledgeable, and driven by an extremist ideology where might makes right. And this is completely contrary to our democratic values. On Monday, the government took the deliberate step of invoking the Emergencies Act for the first time in our country's history. The declaration gives targeted, temporary, and special authorities to law enforcement to help them. The powers exercised are intended to give law authorities new tools to not only bring down the blockades, but to prevent future similar ones and threats by maintaining security at our borders, legislatures, and other critical infrastructure. Compte tenu des paramètres de la loi sur les mesures d'urgence,
given the various parameters of the Emergency Measures Act, these powers will be implemented in a proportionate manner and in cooperation with the competent powers and jurisdictions. And so this will help police and other authorities to put an end quickly and in a peaceful way to the illegal blockades and to keep open the essential corridors. And they will help mobilize quickly the essential services such as towing, trucks, and other equipment. Our CMP will be able to be deployed more quickly in order to implement local and provincial legislations, and the Emergency Measures Act will provide power to financial institutions in order to stop the flow of goods and currencies or monies which might be used by protesters.
How the act will be implemented. In particular, it outlined how an individual must not participate in a public assembly that may be reasonably expected to lead to a breach of the peace. I'm pleased to say that earlier today, that local authorities here in Ottawa began to issue warnings under that provision. There are also provisions under the declaration that allows us to dispute the movement of people or trade interfering with critical infrastructure or supporting or threatening violence against people or property. Over the past 3 weeks, we have seen all of this and more on the streets of Ottawa and at major border crossings, and it must stop. This is a serious situation. We must resist the temptation to dismiss these as isolated incidents. At the core of the movement is anger, animosity, and in far too many cases, violence. We're seeing it play at our borders, in front of our legislatures, our national symbols, and in our communities and in our neighborhoods. Unfortunately, many residents in Ottawa have had the same experience. La situation dans la capitale nationale reste
The
très grave.
situation in the national capital remains critical, and this is why we have taken such an important measure as invoking the Emergency Measures Act. And since the beginning, we have committed to Canadians to use all the tools available to us in order to return to normalcy for them. As I said, the situation in core downtown Ottawa, this situation is simply unacceptable, and the EMA will give police the necessary tools to control the situation.
Come to Ottawa this weekend, don't. At best, the residents of the city have made it clear that this is not the time. And at worst, you may be tying yourself to dangerous criminal activity. This has been an extraordinarily difficult 2 years for all Canadians, and everyone's mental health has suffered. But for those who've had their community occupied or can't go to work or can't live their lives, the past 3 weeks have been simply unacceptable, and it's unsustainable. We owe it to them and to all Canadians to end the illegal blockades and to help get Canadians' lives back.
All right, that's
Wow.
That's enough of that, Nazi.
That's
So, a couple of things here. He says far-right groups. He doesn't mention any far-right groups. He says dangerous far-right groups. He doesn't mention any far-right groups. He makes a boogeyman, a straw man, and then just goes on to the next thing. He just proved in this little press conference that the Emergencies Act is not even needed because of all of the enforcement, that all the powers the police already had was already sufficient to clear all the borders. He just said all the borders are open. Like, we don't need it if that's the case, because we don't have a national emergency anymore, or even an inkling of one. He talks about how we must disrupt the movement of people, and so like that's also like a big charter infringement. And lastly, that last comment he made was probably like the most inflammatory. He said, "Don't come to Ottawa this weekend. You may be tying yourself to dangerous criminal activity. That in and of itself is like inflammatory there. Like,
I think it's funny too that they had pictures of Ottawa in the background. It didn't look very dangerous from their footage. Like he's saying one thing and the viewers are looking at another. I find that crazy.
makes
So
it sound like they're taking
you're there
footage.
today. You've been there. Does any of this mesh with the reality that you're seeing?
It just doesn't. It just doesn't. The worst thing that I've seen from the demonstrators, I feel that there have been times where the demonstrators may have used unkind or potentially disrespectful words to the police officers that could be construed as disrespectful. Honestly, that's it. That's all I've seen. But what I am seeing are the organizers on that stage about every hour, every 2 hours, coming in, talking about holding the line. They're talking about remaining peaceful. They're giving updates on the potential threat of the police coming in to arrest and giving them instruction to remain peaceful at all cost. And that if you can't remain peaceful, get out.
It's interesting. It all depends on how you decide to define something, right? So when they were demonstrating at the Ambassador Bridge, to me, and this whole thing to me is akin to a labor dispute. The truckers are essentially striking.
Right. I've
And
often thought that.
that's really what it is. And it's a time-honored tradition, a time-honored way of protesting, to strike.
Right.
And they're saying that it's illegal to blockade the border because it affects trade and private property. It's illegal for these truckers to be down there because they're hindering the use and enjoyment of private properties, apartment buildings, whatever. Okay. But in my view, this is more in line with a strike, where if you were a worker at a factory, you quit working, and then you set up a picket line in front of the factory to make sure it stays shut down, which prevents the owner of the factory from using his private property, and to prevent scabs from being brought in. That's what, to me, this is. And Parliament seems like the appropriate place to be conducting this kind of demonstration. And they're not impeding access to private property. And you can get into the nuances there, but in a macro sense, that's what this is. It's a labor dispute of sorts, and they're protesting at Parliament Hill. And even at the border, if you want to look at it as a labor dispute, that border, if you're a cross-border trucker, that is your place of employment. So for you to go and strike there and shut that down, I don't see it being that much different than striking in front of a factory and shutting that down. And there are precedents for what I'm saying, because as I pointed out before, there were protests in the 70s, the 80s, in the early 90s, where they shut down that border point. The Ambassador Bridge and other border crossings have been focal points for shutdowns as parts of protests in the past, without the need to invoke the War Measures Act or the Emergencies Act, which is the modern version of that. But if you're the government today and you want to target these guys as political opponents, then you characterize it as terrorism, as the act of a far-right militia or something, right? And so it's an act of, it's an illegal act. Well, I guess technically to block a road, that's technically illegal, yes, but it depends on the context, right, and how you choose to define it, and whether you choose to enforce the letter of the law or the spirit of the law, or which law. Is it a traffic offense, or are you looking at the charter? And if you've got the Emergencies Act in place, then I guess the charter doesn't apply to anything anymore anyway. So everything's freaking illegal if you just decide to, because now they have the power to deem anything to be illegal, including drinking that drink that you're drinking right there.
How dare you?
It's just water.
Right?
Not allowed.
It's just water. But it's true. I mean, and they're basically, so the way that they're acting, it's actually illegal just to be in the downtown area of Ottawa,
Right.
whether you're standing on the street or on the sidewalk.
And then it becomes a question too, Carla, of what about you? What about me?
Mm-hmm.
You have an opinion on something. If you say something on Facebook tonight, or maybe here on this broadcast, we've said a lot of things that have been critical of government, more in favor of the freedom movement. So what does that make us?
Right. The enemy of the government.
Are we? We're the enemy of the government,
well,
are we?
It just seems the way that they're treating anyone who doesn't align with their beliefs is an automatic enemy.
What about all these people making comments here? Are they terrorists now? With all of our rights suspended, are all these people now going to be targeted? What about anybody on Facebook anywhere who ever said anything at any time? Saying, go truckers. Is that all it takes now? Go truckers, right? Is that it? And then the RCMP knocks on your door and they said, you posted on Facebook 3 months ago, go truckers. You'll have to come with us.
Yeah.
We've deemed you to be a threat to the state. Think about it, folks. That's where we're at right now tonight. The real crisis is not the truckers. The crisis is the implementation of the Emergencies Act, which suspends all of our rights and allows the government to do anything they want and target anyone they want, and they can justify it any way they want. And they can stand up at that. They can stand up at that podium and characterize anything any way they want. And these weapons that they've confiscated, I don't know. I want more details on that. I want names. I want details on who these people are. I want to know who they're really connected to. I don't want to hear that they're just part of some far right group. I want to know which groups. I want details.
Yeah.
I want information. I want truth.
Is it some Facebook group that just shares memes? Like, is that what, like, it would not surprise me if that was the type of stretch they're making to say, oh, these are hate groups. It's just some group that shares memes.
Is it
about
because somebody
Justin
has
Trudeau.
an account on Gab? So now you're going to be hauled off to jail? Or what is it? What is it? Where's the line? Where's the line? Where does it stop? And now you see, so that guy could stand up at the podium and say, Joe Smith is a terrorist and is a threat to our democracy, our state. He's this and that and the other thing, just because he said something on Facebook at some time. I don't know. So when I'm listening to him talk, it's not meshing with what I've seen over the past 3 weeks and all the video that all the raw stuff that we've seen down there. It's not meshing with what you're telling us. It's not meshing with what Brian just told us. He's been down there.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't jive. I don't get it. The whole weapons thing. We already know from what the RCMP released before that group at the Coutts border, apparently they said they weren't really part of the core group. They weren't part of it. And then the response from the people at the border was they were so shattered by that because they were so committed to peaceful protest. That's why they shut it down. Because I saw the comments and the statement that they made. That was it for them. It was like, well, we can't carry on now because if there's any possibility that there's any violence, then we're just not part of it. We're not going to do it.
Right.
So they packed it in and left. That's why. So those people
So there was no real proof. Was there ever proof that there were weapons found?
They showed their weapons were displayed for the media to photograph. Yes, I saw that, but it hasn't gone to court yet, so we don't really have any details. They're characterizing it in whatever way they choose to characterize it. And maybe it's all true, and maybe it's a big freaking problem. But I just want the information. And there's so much on the line here right now, you see. The future of the country is on the line. What direction is this country going to go? Where's Justin Trudeau taking us? There's so much on the line for him. There's so much on the line for the government. Is this going to be a free country? Or are we going to continue to live under these tyrannical orders with limited freedoms? Have we now normalized the suspension of the charter every time there's a flu season? Like, where are we going with this? Because that's how much is at stake. There's a battle on right now, and it's not over COVID. It's over good versus evil, I believe, freedom versus a weird sort of fascistic communism that Justin Trudeau wants to impose on the country. That's where it's at. So do we want what Canada has been, a country that believes in individual rights and freedoms, or is it the other one? And how far is the government prepared to go with their propaganda and their smear campaigns and all the other crap that we've seen, outright lies that we've proven are lies right here? Proven. So if they're doing that, then what about that other stuff? If they're lying about all that, I'm skeptical. I'm not saying they're lying about it. I'm just saying, show me the evidence. Show me the proof, all of the proof. I want the full story. I'm not just going to take, the surface and skim that off and go, oh, well, you found some guns. I guess the whole thing is just the whole movement. Half, 30%, 50%, 70%, whatever percentage of the country it is, I guess they are a bunch of white nationalist, fascistic, white supremacist, racist fascists. They're all like that. All those toothless redneck hick truckers, smear them all with that, right? Well, is it? Or was it like 2 guys or however many guys were arrested there in Coots? I don't know. And who the hell are they? Are they really from there, or are they with some other group that's not really even in alignment with what these guys are trying to achieve? These truckers. I want to know. I want to know.
The sad reality about that question, Rick, is by the time it gets to court and more is found out about it, it'll be
down the road. It's too late. It's gone.
And that's right.
Justin Trudeau will have done whatever he wanted at that point. And if it just if it carves the heart out of this thing and causes it to collapse, well, isn't that convenient?
And you also bring a nightmare to my mind when you say, well, where's this going? We just elected this guy in 6 months back. We still have like 3.5 more years. I am terrified.
Right.
If this is what we've gotten in the first 6 months, imagine what the next 3.5 years is going to look like, because it ain't going to be pretty.
Will we be able to even vote in 3.5 years? How much damage is he going to do?
How long is this Emergencies Act going to remain in place? Look at the power it gives him. Look at the power.
Gives him lots of power.
Almost unlimited power.
Even though his own minister comes out and proves the point that this is not even necessary. All the borders are open now.
Hey, Jay, whatever it is, JL. Okay. Justin Trudeau won a minority government. Yeah, that's democracy. I am a grown-up, and I do have big boy pants, and I'm going to tell you something. Just because you have a minority government, it does not give you license or permission to shred the Constitution and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. You need to meet a threshold, and it doesn't give you the right to twist and lie to justify the implementation of an act that's supposed to be reserved for the most dire of circumstances, circumstances that represent and pose an existential threat to the entire country. It's basically supposed to be reserved for extreme emergencies like wars where you have foreign enemies about to commit a violent invasion of your country. I ask you, you're sitting at home tonight, JL. Do you really feel like you're safety is in jeopardy? Are you afraid a bunch of angry truckers are going to pull up on your street, drag you out of your house, and throw you in prison as a political prisoner tonight? You really think those guys are there to overthrow the government? Is that what their objective really is? Do you feel unsafe as a citizen tonight? Do you feel like there's a foreign power that's about to invade the country and take over? Is that where we are at? I would submit, no, we're not anywhere near that. What we have is a bunch of pissed off people who've had a belly full of lockdowns and COVID mandates that have stripped them of their rights. And if you can't see that, then you either are blind or you just don't care. And that's the thing that concerns me too, is a lot of Canadians, a lot today, just don't seem to care. And a lot of them seem to want these authoritarian measures to remain in place. They seem to like it. I don't understand it at all. I just don't. What the hell has happened to Canada?
I think there are some people that just feel very comfortable, with parameters. They like rules. They like to be told how they're going to do things rather than think for themselves. We've seen it over the last 2 years.
Well, and democracy or not, those documents, the Constitution, the Charter, other measures are in place, other safety nets are in place, like the Senate is there to protect us from exactly what Justin Trudeau is doing right now. It's there to protect us from tyrannical politicians or dictators, if you will, from taking power, seizing power, and fundamentally changing the country, transforming it from a free society into an authoritarian society, from undermining all of that. That's what those documents are there for. But somehow they've figured out a way to just do an end run around all of it and say, well, this is an emergency and therefore we get to do whatever we want. And we've been watching them just make up new laws about this and redefine that and then call this person this and call that person that.
Without a shred of evidence, I may add, in a lot of cases.
And I'm not, I've always been very pro-police, but from what I've been watching, I'm very skeptical of a lot of things going on, and the police at this point scare me. And I'm sorry, folks. I don't trust much of anything that I'm seeing. I don't even trust everything the truckers say. Okay? So if there's anything that those guys are doing that goes over the line, and I know about it, I'm not in favor of that. Not at all. And I would want anyone that does to be held accountable on that side as well. But that has to be applied equally on both sides, because that's what Canada's about. Everyone has to be treated equally under the law. Everyone. And that means, too, not special treatment for those protesters and extra harsh treatment for those protesters. And we're seeing a whole lot of that double standard applied these days.
Bravo.
Very, very well spoken. Yeah.
Rules for me and not for thee. Keeps happening.
It's been the last 2 years. That's what it's all been about.
Yeah, isn't it strange? It doesn't seem to be about COVID at all anymore right now, does it?
When's the last time you even heard a politician say COVID? Like, I can't.
Right.
They're not even...
As soon as someone stood up and the truckers started to fight back, the word COVID just disappeared. The data changed. The numbers were going down. And now it's about fighting the terrorists. It's fighting a war within Canada.
That's
the
right.
Government versus the citizens.
Terrorists.
It's as soon as someone stood up and said, wait, we're done.
And that's where we're at now. And that's why the implementation of this Emergencies Act is so damn dangerous. Because now it's in place. And even when they get these truckers out of there, they shut this down, right? Now,
Does he suspend the Emergencies Act? Don't count on it. You know what's coming next? Well, officers were successful in, dispersing the truckers, and we made 718 arrests, or whatever number it is, right? The sonic boom device was extremely useful in order, blah, blah, blah. Now it's done. And then, but the threat remains. We have intelligence that says there's still people out there who don't like us. And
there's still free thinkers.
Yes, so we're just going to have to leave the Emergencies Act in place for just a while longer. We won't leave it in place one day longer than is necessary. Trust us, folks, we don't really want to have to do this, but we're going to have to leave it in place and expand the scope. It was targeted geographically, very carefully at the Ottawa area and here and there, but we now know that from interrogations and other evidence that we've been gathering and intelligence that there are cells of terrorists
from all over the world,
from all over the world and from Canada, and there's foreign influence. We have it on good authority that the Russians are influencing these cells, or from whatever country. You know what? That's where it's going. That's where it's going. If somebody doesn't do something right now, if there's a provision in the legislation that allows the implementation of the Emergencies Act, if I believe it's 20 MPs, 20 MPs or 10 senators, I'm not sure of the exact number, but all it would take would be 20 to get together and say that that this is a problem. And then there would be serious review. And if that doesn't work,
only 20.
And then they have to vote on it, right, within 7 days. And it's going to pass because we know that the NDP supports it. But even with that, there is a small clause to prevent, again, it's a safety net against what we've got going on right now, to prevent a prime minister from abusing the power. So if just 20 see that the country is imperiled because of an abuse of power using the Emergencies Act, they can get together and put an end to it. And I believe it's 10 senators. So they can stop it there as well. And I think as well, if it gets to a point that's gone too far, I think the Queen can step in at some point and restore things.
The Governor General?
The Queen. The Governor General, not directly. The Governor General is just the Queen's representative. As I recall, and this is just from my civics from, honestly, high school, going back that far.
Yeah, it's changed since then, man.
Well, no. Well, even with the patriation of the Constitution, we're still part of the Commonwealth. Yeah. And there is a safety net in there. That's why we still recognize the Queen. And I could be wrong. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but there are still safety nets in place. Whether they'll be used at any point, I don't know, but I am very scared of where we're at.
Well, may God help us.
Right. I don't have a lot of faith in the Queen either. So.
Well, the great Canadian standoff does continue.
It does.
We have more to come in the days ahead. It's been 3 hours and 15 minutes here, just about. Gentle reminder out there to everybody: we are accepting donations to help fund what we are doing and to help fund Carla down in Ottawa, as she is incurring a lot of expenses down there. And in the very least, if you could like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, that would also be of great support. I am Brendan Kennedy with the Flow of Discourse podcast, and it's been great commentating with everybody tonight. Thank you so much.
And I am Carla Olson, on the ground in Ottawa. Thank you for having me.
And I'm Rick Walker. Again, folks, we're not part of the trucker convoy. We're a media outfit that we've set up because we saw the need. We're here fighting for truth and fighting for freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of the press or media tonight. That's what we're doing. We're fighting misinformation. We're fighting against a government state-funded legacy media tonight, offering balance. I'm back out of semi-retirement reluctantly doing this because I see what's going on out there. Carla is up there in Ottawa on the street, working as a journalist, trying to bring you truth, raw footage, interviews. You've seen some of that tonight. She's doing a great job. And right now is when we need you to help us because we are fighting. It's an information war as much as anything else. And we're fighting that information war to help you, to help Canada. Thus far, we haven't asked really for anything, but if you can support us in any way, we'd greatly appreciate it. It helps us keep Carla there, and it keeps this broadcast on the air. There are expenses involved, and we're putting long hours into prep for this each day, and then we've been on the air every single night with these essentially emergency broadcasts to keep you up to date on what's going on. And tonight, I'm going to be up late monitoring everything down there the best I can to see what happens because we know that a police action is imminent. It appears to be imminent. That piece of paper, that warning, is telling them all, get out of there. This is your last warning. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happens tonight. If it's not tonight, it's got to be
I'll
tomorrow.
be shocked. I do think that they are going to. I'm going to stand on my intuition, call it my own opinion. I think they're going to come like a thief in the night.
Yeah.
I do. Just because then they'll have less fallout.
May all the police officers stay safe tonight. Mm-hmm. May all the protesters down there stay safe. May all the residents stay safe. Mm-hmm. And let's pray for everyone. And especially tonight, let us pray and wish all the best for our Prime Minister.
Right. You always pray for your enemy, and you should pray for your leader.
You know what? I don't want Justin Trudeau to be my enemy. I want him to be my Prime Minister. And I don't want him removed from office right now. People elected him. I just want him to be a leader and do the right things and act in the best interests of the people, of your people tonight. And the same message goes out to the interim police chief, to the mayor of Ottawa, to all the members of the Police Services Board, to all the officers out there who are going to find themselves in a very, very delicate and difficult position. Please, listen to your heart and find the wisdom here. Be careful, everyone. With that, I am Rick Walker, signing off. We'll be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. And if there are major developments between now and then, we will do our best to sign back on with another emergency broadcast. And to everyone, thank you so much for watching. You've been watching ongoing live coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022. Catch you on the flip side tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.